All right, good morning. This is the March 3rd, 2026, 9 a.m. Board of Supervisors meeting. We'll go ahead and begin the meeting today with our Pledge of Allegiance. And if I could have Mr. Thomas lead us, please. And the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, sir. Technical issue here as we bring up the county laptops. All right. All right, the next item on our agenda is going to be the oral communications. Each person has 15 minutes to speak. We have 3 minutes to discuss anything that is not on the agenda. The clock is working today, so that's great. So at 1 minute, you'll hear a beep to let you know that you'll have 1 minute left. At the end of that 1 minute, if you're not completed, we will ask you to stop, regardless of where you are in your conversations. Additionally, this is any item that is not currently on the agenda. And then lastly, we ask everyone to be respectful, no booing or clapping or cheering. We want everyone to feel comfortable when they address the board and the people that are listening. So with that being said, I'll open it up to public comment.
And Chair, a point of order on the 15 minutes. I do not believe we have a policy that limits it to 15 minutes.
I didn't say anything about that. And we do actually. Sorry, Mr. Brenner, go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Christopher Butner. I'm an 11-year resident of Calaveras County, purchasing my Murphy's home 5 years ago, where I care for my 92-year-old mother. Before other matters and for context, I'll briefly respond to the invitation or the suggestion for me to spend money while in Tuolumne County voiced by one of the county supervisors at the January 6, 2026 Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors meeting. For the record, I already spend many thousands of dollars annually at Tuolumne County retailers and restaurants. This amount is considerably more than what I spend in my home county, Calaveras. Moreover, Tuolumne County offers services Calaveras County does not, such as specialized medical care that my mother and I must receive from Adventist Health Sonora. I expect Tuolumne County supervisors to be welcoming and appreciative of my dollars while prioritizing my family's safety and security when we come here to Tuolumne County for any reason. My neighbors and family experienced the real tangible fear of losing our community and homes to the terrifying 2/7 wildfire last September, which forced our evacuation as it nearly overtook Murphy's. We were fortunate that the winds did not turn against firefighters, unlike the horrific 6.5 fire that immolated most of historic Chinese Camp. Beyond being a resident of Calaveras County, I'm also a resident of the Motherlode region, and so I share a certain common identity with some common concerns that span the overlapping political and geographic boundaries dividing the region's counties, especially Calaveras adjacent to Tuolumne County. I'm drawn to gaining a deeper understanding of the meaning of the term moral hazard and specifically how it applies to local and state government. I'll use this moment to present a common terminology of moral hazard for a point of reference and for my future appearances here during the coming months. Moral hazard is an economic concept describing a situation where one party takes on excessive risk or acts irresponsibly because another party bears the consequences of those actions. It occurs when an entity is insulated from risk, such as through insurance or government bailouts, often resulting in increased harmful behavior. What recent behaviors of the Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors by its majority vote or votes has introduced a moral hazard? Does the impending closure of Monte Vista Station 56 represent fiscal responsibility as 3 supervisors claim, or does it represent the introduction of a moral hazard that others must bear the pain and price for? This topic and the broader perspective of public safety responsibility of the county government will certainly be continued here and in other venues, including my blog, over the coming days, weeks, and months of this 2026 election year. My name is Christopher Butner, publisher of CalaverasWatchdog.com, a government accountability publication. Thank you, gentlemen.
Good morning, I'm Sean McWhinney, and I'm just here to invite all the Board of Supervisors to our 4th annual Parkinson's Awareness Walk on April 25th at 1 o'clock at the Red Church, just to come out, raise awareness and knowledge about Parkinson's. And I'll give you each one of these, and that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. You too. Thank you.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
My name is Mike Ryan. I'm a resident of Columbia County on the Q and Milk corridor, basically. I'm representing 427 signature or signers of petitions regarding Station 56. We're concerned about the thread-thin fire services we have, I think, in Ptolemy County right now. And we're kind of concerned that we'd lose 6 firefighters and close a building and a station, and then thereby causing big mutual aid problems for our neighboring fire agencies. So I just wanted to submit these. These are 427 signatures from Ptolemy County residents that are opposed to closing 56. And we're petitioning this body to reconsider and find a way to fund that service so we can keep our fire services as they are currently. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Root, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Morning, sir.
morning. It's truly an honor to lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Supervisor Griefer. It's also an honor to have stood at this microphone and prayed. And I'm so thankful that we still live in a country where we can do that. Many people have asked me recently why I stopped, and I don't have a clear answer to that question. First off, it was never my intent to come here and pray in the first place. I came to fight and to argue for my opinions. And I know that this is hard for people who do not believe in God to understand. But after I fought and argued, God told me, why don't you just pray instead? And so that's what I did for 3 years, and it's been a blessing for me. And then God stopped telling me to do it. So I stopped. I'm not really sure why God stopped telling me. Maybe it's just his timing. Maybe he wants me to pray silently for a while. Maybe he has some other person in mind to do it. Or maybe it's just something that I will never completely understand. Over the last several months, my family has been experiencing a miracle. For the first time in 24 years of existence, I am starting to know what my son thinks. As a nonverbal, severely autistic person, the world, including myself, believed that he was cognitively impaired, but nothing could be farther from the truth. It's not cognitive impairment. He's been in there the whole time. It's a motor planning problem, similar to a stroke victim. He can't get his hands and fingers, mouth, eyes, or body to cooperate with his fully functioning brain. So we started treating him like a stroke victim, and we started motor planning therapy, and it's working. Slowly but surely, by learning to control his eyes and fingers, he is learning to type. Imagine living with, but not knowing your own son for 24 years, and then suddenly you get to know him. I can't even imagine it, and yet it's my life. So maybe that's why God stopped telling me to pray here, because he's got me supporting my son and my wife and his therapists instead. As a result, I will not be here as consistently as in the past. Maybe I'll be back to praying here again someday, but maybe it should be somebody else. Maybe it will be my son. Maybe someday he'll be the first nonverbal autistic county supervisor. I'll pray for God's will in that. In the meantime, those of you who believe in God don't need me to be here praying anyways. You never have. You have him, so keep praying. The rest of you who don't know God, you don't need me either. But the world's pretty messed up, and I think you can use God. So I'm going to keep praying for that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Morning.
Morning, everyone. Patricia Ray from Rugged Trail Road. The winter quiet and lack of stinks in my neighborhood has been more than welcome, but just another temporary stay. The issues Ree Anderson and I touch on time after time are still there, and the so-called house planned for the middle of the toxic demolition debris dump is actually an office building. Would anyone hearing this now want to live in it when any realtor can show you healthier, nicer places to spend your life in? I'd sure like to see true spring come without dreading it, and to be able to pre-schedule people over to my place without the threat of dump activity starting up unpredictably again next to us, hanging over our heads. Just one little example of our being illegally deprived of full use and enjoyment of our own properties we keep paying ever rising property taxes for on time. So, again, please get this dump out away from my and anyone else's only homes and fix the brown field. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning. Recently, we were given a copy of a letter written by the LEA from CDD, Debbie Larson, saying that the dump was going to be a different kind of name, going to be a recycling facility. She's all along called it an inert debris disposal facility. And I've been researching on Cal Recycle, and they don't seem to agree. They just call it a regular debris facility. And there are all kinds of requirements, not just having permits from Cal Recycle for actually just running the facility. Cal Recycle has other things that they require, like a site development permit or a conditional use permit. This is from Cal Code Regs Title 14, which is the big title that is used a lot for dumps and stuff. And it's just about nuisance control. This is a requirement in order to have something like a disposal facility in an area. Each operation and facility shall be conducted and maintained to prevent the creation of a nuisance. Compliance with specific provisions regarding nuisance control and a local land use approval, such as a conditional use permit or CEQA mitigation measures should be considered compliance with this standard. This is asking a county, the LEA, the local enforcement agency, to enforce local laws. Our LEA from CDD, the CDD LEA, consistently ignores that, and she doesn't enforce any county laws. So I sent a code compliance violation out this morning, and you guys all got CC'd on it. You have copies of it. And it's just, I thought I'd whip out a couple of codes, but it turned out to be a whole page of codes, violation after violation after violation at Cal Recycle. It's awful. And a lot of them refer back to county ordinance. And this has been allowed since 2021. And we've been breathing it, listening to it, smelling it, seeing it. And it's caused floods. It's awful. I mean, it's absolutely unacceptable that this could happen and be delivered to citizens of Tuolumne County and be encouraged further by the local enforcement agency person that's supposed to be enforcing state regulations and county regulations at the same time. It's ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I could use your help with something. I go to court a lot and watch DUI cases. And one thing I've become very aware of is that even though the court's not in your jurisdiction, this impacts your staff. They have no court interpreters here, not one. And they're having a problem throughout the state of getting court interpreters. So I finally met a court interpreter who came up here after several months. And he lives in Turlock and goes all the way up to Yuba City. So he covers a lot of court counties. So the court system in California started a pilot program to develop court interpreters. So I reached out to the superintendents of the schools because I thought maybe they could do something with CTE, because you can be a court interpreter at age 18. So they started this pilot program. And so I thought, oh, this will be really great. They'll have the classes, they'll have tutoring, they'll help you pass the test. This will be really great. Well, the court interpreter told me that's not true. All they do is reimburse you after you take everything on your own and pay for it yourself. If you pass, they'll reimburse you. And then because they reimbursed you, you'll owe them a 3-year commitment. So it really doesn't count for much. So I think we ought to do something in our community where we put together our own little group of interested parties who could be helpful. And we provide a place where people could take these classes and then perhaps provide them with some tutoring and then even help them with the legalese so they can pass the test. And so that we can come up with some interpreters for ourselves in our own county. Because not having interpreters really costs a lot. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank to see you guys again. I'm Carol Berard. Proud to reside at Camp Justice, and thank you for the 2-month extension. I'm not here to fight for them, but I am here to just let you guys know what they did last month was very brutal and cruel. They tore my friend's home down right there at the camp to pieces, and that was wrong. It's not 3 write-up smack, and you get detention for it, or that was wrong. My friend Joe, he's my good friend for 19 years. William asked him to bring his trailer here. He has stage 2 cancer again. Now he has to do chemo in a tent. I live in a trailer. My friend gave it to me. His wife passed away in that place last year. That is my family. I'm sacrificing my trip. They're mostly elderly, and they said thank you so much for letting them get through this winter. But at least can we have some services or somebody going up to them and giving them some ideas where to go? Because the only thing they have is you guys are going to tear their homes down. Why would they want to live or anything? I'm the only one here today, and I barely made it because one of our bus drivers just got attacked last night by 2 females that I know, and I had to go try to stop them from leaving. And he's okay, and he's going to thrive in his music career, but that's why I'm late. But I just want to say thank you guys for the 2-month extension, and now I have less than 30 days, and I really loved you guys giving us the opportunity to be out there, and I just wish that we wouldn't have to tear apart our homes and go back to because I just found out I'm cancer free, and I just got a job, and what am I going to do now? I don't have. My daughter passed away 5 years ago last month, and I haven't had a door since her passing because she's never going to walk through that door, and I got to go through that milestone in my trailer. I had 2 doors, and it's one of my old. Thank you for that opportunity, and that place is my family. And if you guys just go there one evening, and except for Kelly, but we all love her to hate her, but it's not that so bad. Everybody looks after each other out there, and thank you. Glad I made it for thank you. God bless you guys, and thank you.
Thank you. All right, any further public comment? Seeing none, I appreciate everyone taking the time to address the board. We'll go ahead and move into staff reports. Any staff reports? Hopefully there's a shark attack story or a skiing event behind that.
You guessed that. Locally, so it's giving our own economy good things. Anyway, I am here to tell you that yesterday we had the RFP bidders come in for EMS. So we had 3 qualified bidders. The day went well, and we expect the results that we can share with you hopefully by the end of the week. We're on time to get a new provider for EMS services in Tuolumne County, July 1st.
Thank you. It's like the long walk.
I know. Yes.
Keeps us in suspense.
Good morning, board members. Dory Beats, your Office of Emergency Assistant Director, and also join with me is Blossom Scott Heim, your Public Works Director. We want to give you a little update about Chinese Camp. We're pretty excited, and we're very pleased to announce that the Tuolumne County has successfully completed the disaster debris and hazard tree removal process within the 6 months that was given to us. This is the first ever Tuolumne County run debris management program, and we successfully removed, hold on, 8,866 tons of debris, which equates, we had to do the math, 17.5 million pounds of debris from 51 parcels. And those 51 parcels had qualifying structures, whether it was a home or an outbuilding. And I just want to say, we both want to say that this accomplishment could not have happened with an amazing team. Blossom's team and Denise Sitnick, which is also in the back room, won't make her come up, but manage our contractors. The amount of work that had to go to do this. I remember a small meeting up at the CRC we had, and Roger and I were looking, and we looked at Blossom, and we're like, "You got this?" Blossom's like, "Yes." So we really want to talk about Blossom, Denise, several of their engineer who oversaw the contracting and site inspections, also environmental health staff that helped with our alternative program, the sheriff's office and CHP that did the vehicle adjudication, and of course our office that processed every one of the right of entries, and really gave a place for the property owners to go to. Really proud of our connection with the property owners. In fact, many of us have been invited to barbecues forever in Chinese Camp. And we had some great connections with some of the families that are down there. And we hope to support them forever in their recovery. Also want to say that while the debris removal is complete, and today we are sending the last of what is called the final sign-off packages or return of packages to the property owner. This is the first in the series. They get a letter, they get background information about the debris that was removed, as well as soil survey results. We also give them some information of where to go to, your recent board action, limiting or the permit fees, waiving those till the end of this year, giving them direction to go to CDD, all of those things which are the next step. I will say that the process is not over, even though we are done with debris removal. We now have the task of the backup documentation, cost compilations, the closing out of contracts, all that not so fun stuff, all to ensure that we get the most recovery back from the state. That's what we will be doing and working on. We must also supply then each parcel owner with a cost accounting of what it took to remove all of that debris. We give that to them when we're done. Some of them use that with their insurance companies. We also then must attempt to claim any insurance disbursements as a result of this fire. So this is a huge learning experience for us and our staff, something we never want to do again, ever. But very proud of the team and the work and the support from all of you, the board, as well as the CIO's office, many of the other staff throughout the county along the way. Recovery is the least glamorous part of disasters, and often the most time consuming. Not done correctly can be costly, and our goal has always been to help those residents recover. Now that the debris has been removed, they can start the process of rebuilding. So we want to thank you and give you an update on that. He's going to leave, and now I'm going to have Lindsay come up as well. Second, we want to remind homeowners that in Ponderosa Hills and Miramani, we have the California Welfare Mitigation Grant Program. We do have flyers in the back. I will send these to you because it has a nice QR code that you can link up on your social media. The goal of the CWMP Tuolumne County Home Hardening Initiative is to reduce the threat to life and property in our area's wildland-urban interface. Key objectives to reach these goals or to perform site assessments for identification of wildfire retrofit and defensible space projects, which may reduce the risk of wildfire ignitions on private residential property. Also to perform home hardening activities on residential structures to mitigate vulnerable building elements that pose a risk for wildfire ignition. And lastly, to perform the defensible space measures around residential structures, reducing vegetation fuels. We have been working with our state partners, Cal OES, and our federal partners to streamline our assessments. Currently, we have in the system, and you'll see on the dashboard, 79 assessments to date. Recently, we also sent a letter out. A lot of things are changing federally, some of you are aware of, with respect to processing. But early on in our project, we had a little species called the Western Pond Turtle that took up the entire project area. That was on a species list, now has been moved to proposed, which now means that we don't have to do the extra environmental compliance on the Western Pond Turtle. So 132 parcel owners are now in what we call the no issue list. We recently, last week, sent out a letter to each of those parcels owners. Those are our priority areas because we can get them done a lot faster because they have less environmental compliance work to be done. So we are hoping that the property owners of those 132 will apply. We want to make sure that we get those in as soon as possible so we can get them processed under the changes that are happening within federal government and hazard mitigation projects such as this. And so we are asking for support in getting that information out. And we will be continuing to do those assessments. And then already the assessments that have been done, Lindsay Bartow, as you remember, is our project manager. She has been going out doing those assessments, but also starting the scope of work. So then we'll get to the contractors phase for the work to be done. So I just want to remind folks and give you an update on that. I will send this out to you so you can circulate, but we definitely, Supervisor Kirk, if we can get more of the participants in that area, that would be greatly appreciated. So thank you.
That's a question real
Go
quick.
ahead.
So you said the 132, how are you guys trying to make contact with them? Is it mailers? Is it?
Yeah, we sent out a mailer
Okay.
to each one of them and then pushing it out amongst some of the local groups in that area. So,
Okay. Do you have the list of their addresses, obviously? I like to get those from you.
okay.
Okay,
We will send the flyer to you as well with those. Thank you.
Any other board comment or questions? Okay, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Blossom Scottheim, your Public Works Director again. I want to just take a minute to personally thank Denise and my engineering team for their work on that Chinese campfire. They worked 6 days a week. They worked long hours. They started at 6:30 in the morning. They saw the best and the worst of the people down there who were going through, a terribly emotional time, losing everything. And they pushed through and did an amazing job. But why I'm actually here this morning is to give you an update on snow plowing and debris removal. Now that the snow is melting, there's a tremendous amount of tree debris in the ditches in the public right of way. And I know there've been a lot of questions on social media, calls to my office about what we're doing about that. We are methodically going through and clearing the debris. And we're also have a crew that's going through and patching potholes because as we all know, after a storm, we get a bunch of potholes popping up. So we are clearing anything that's hazardous first, any debris or trees that are blocking roads or driveways. Then we move on to clearing the debris in the ditches and the right-of-way. I'd like to ask the board and the public to be a little patient with us. It's a lot of work. In Twain Harte, we had 57 roads affected with debris. In Cedar Ridge, we had all but 2 roads affected with debris. These are county-maintained roads. So we are on it. We are devoted to this. This is all our crews are doing besides a little bit of pothole patching, and we will get it done. I want to remind everybody we don't remove debris on private property. And if anybody sees a safety hazard or just wants to submit a maintenance request, please call our main line 209-533-5601, option 1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question real quick.
Yep, good.
Before you go, Blossom, sorry. Thought you were gonna get away. So is there anything held up still by PG&E clearing power lines? Because there was a tree in a power line as of like 3 days ago or so, still in the Cedar Ridge area. Are there any of those kind of issues where we're waiting on PG&E to do their work before we can start with the clearance?
I don't think so. There
Okay.
may be some isolated incidents. I will say during the storm events, our snowplow drivers were working very long hours, 12, 14, 16, sometimes with callbacks, 18 hours. And we were able to hook up with PG&E the Saturday after, of the storm week and go out with them to work collaboratively to start clearing trees and lines and really establish kind of a rapport and a process, because a lot of the problems we had during the storms where we couldn't plow the roads is because a tree would come down. We didn't know when PG&E was going to get there because they were stretched just as thin as we were. And then once they'd clear a line, we didn't know that they had cleared it, so we didn't know to go back and finish plowing. We were able to hook up with them and collaborate that Saturday and really work out a process for future storms where we think we'll both be more efficient.
Okay. And I know a lot of lower Cedar Ridge is still, there's several areas that are still one lane. Is there a plan to come through and widen those? I'm not sure if there's debris in that, it's just kind of a mess on the south side of some of the streets.
I don't think we're doing any more plowing.
Okay.
We had so much snow so fast. Part of the reason that the lanes were so narrow is we just literally had nowhere to put the snow. We couldn't blow it into people's front yards and front decks. We couldn't push it anywhere else. We ran out of snow storage because it came down. So I don't believe we're still plowing. There may be some isolated areas that we're hitting, but generally if they have one good lane, we're just leaving that. The other issue too is a lot of these folks have already paid private contractors to come in and clear their driveways, and we don't want to go through and put a berm there again. We say in the office berm happens, but I know it's difficult for the property owners.
So, okay, I'm gonna communicate with some folks up there. If
Okay.
there's a need for another run through, can we do that?
Yeah.
With snowplows? Okay.
Yeah,
Because
we'll
I've been
certainly-
hearing that, but
Give me a
but
list
that-
of roads.
That is a
and-
good point.
Yeah, give me a list of roads and we'll take a look at it and see if
Okay.
we can feasibly do it.
I will get that too. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other further board reports? Or sorry, staff reports, my mistake. All right, thank you. All right, now we'll go on to board reports. Any of the board have a board report?
Sure. It's not much of a report other than just thanking Blossom, Dory, everybody. We did get hammered so hard. I've been on multiple phone calls within my district, with CHP, with Dodge Ridge, with homeowners, floating ideas. There's been ideas floated in the past, but there's new leadership and I think there may be some new pathways forward. So we're working on that, but really just thank you guys. I was probably annoying you with so many phone calls and emails, and then Dory, just a thumbs up. Are we still getting any calls, communication regarding communication lines, or has that died down? We're still getting a few. Okay. So I'll make again on my Facebook post tonight. I'll put that number again for people to call if their communication lines are down, but just thank everybody. And then on top of that, obviously the flume going out in my district. I do want to report that I have a conversation happening tomorrow with Assemblyman Tangapa, Senator Alvarado Gill, McClintock's office, TUD. We have a joint conversation about affecting change in the flume where we can. So just stay tuned for that. Thank you.
Supervisor Campbell? I'll just go right down the dais. Nope. Okay. Yes.
So yesterday I attended the Yosemite area transit committee meeting. That group, it's pretty shocking to see the effect that some of the decisions that are being made at the federal level are affecting travel to the park. We've seen it's about 15 to 20% less ridership on our route, the 120 route. It's something like 40% less on yards. So that's just kind of indicating that we're getting a lot less tourism, a lot less international tourism into Yosemite National Park. So it's kind of an early indicator of just kind of some concerns there that might affect TOT, other downstream things. So that was something I learned yesterday. And then, obviously it was a pretty wild experience going through the storm. I was blocked in at my house on one of the days. And so I sympathize with everybody else who was had trees and stuff falling in the roadway. But I think Public Works, it was a pretty major storm. I don't think it was the worst. I think we've been through some worse ones, but some people say it was the worst. It was definitely up there. Um, but I would say the response has been the best that I had seen with any of the storms we've had in the past. There's always inconvenience, there's always problems, but I think people up in the mountains are pretty tough and they're pretty resilient and they're used to this type of thing. And it's our responsibility to make sure that it doesn't extend on longer than is reasonable. I think Public Works, I think PG&E, I think TUD work together better than I've ever seen them in this past one. And so it was really, really gratifying. And it was kind of strange to go from one day, talking to our partners in the state, and then the next hour I'm shoveling somebody's driveway, and then the next hour I'm talking with TUD, and then the next hour I'm stacking somebody's wood. It was just like that for 3 days straight. So pretty wild experience, but we got through it.
All right. Supervisor Brandon? Oh, sorry. So two things, so I'll echo everything you said. It was a wild storm. I do appreciate all of the hard work, our staff, Public Works and EMS and everything that they did. We were getting calls around the clock as all of us were, I'm sure, about what was going on, especially in the high country, getting those roads open. As far as county roads, cleaning up the shrubs and stuff, I appreciate. They went by my property a week and a half ago, and I waved at them because I wasn't sure what was going on. I had one of those big machines that goes along the side of the hill and grinds everything down. So a masticator, one of those portable masticators. So that was really good to see. Where I'm going with this is that the people, I want them to know that the investments that this board has made, not only just in personnel but in equipment, is paying off. We're seeing a lot of that going on. And again, Supervisor Campbell, you hit it right on the head. One day it's one thing and next day it's something else because, as we know, we had all of the snow, and then that following Saturday we had the great weather for the polar plunge. So I will, rarely do I speak on behalf of this board, but I did it this time. I convinced them that we would all take part in the polar plunge next year. Because I didn't do it this year, so I could, we'll see if that comes together. I want to thank the Sheriff's Department and his staff and everybody else who took part in the polar plunge. They raised about $45,000. Their goal is $50,000. We really want to appreciate our partnership with Don Pedro. They really went out of their way to make sure that all of the facility was there. It's a great day, great organization. So hopefully the Super Cool Soups is the title I think we can come up with as we do our polar plunge swim. So we'll see what happens, but I encourage us to take part in that. Lastly, and again, kind of going back to what Supervisor Campbell said, I was planning on going to our NACO legislative conference in DC. When this storm hit, I was unable to go. I could not get out. The people that were going to watch my property while I was gone were also impacted. With that being said, I will be reimbursing out of my pocket the full cost of the NACO reservation fees as well as the hotel fees. So unfortunately, things do happen along those lines, but we have to be good stewards with the people's money. I made the decision not to go because of the other items, but I don't feel that it's right for me to have the county incur a cost that I chose to take on myself. So once the numbers come in of what we owe or what I owe, I will go ahead and get down to the Donnie and pay it, or Justin. Other than that, again, I want to really say thank you to everybody, all the hard work, PG&E, all of the crews that were out there doing their hardest to make sure that we could get our people out and about. So I like the phrase "berm happens." So, and when we hear that, we understand where that's coming from. With that, Supervisor Holling.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. So I like to say I agree with Mr. Butler back from Calaveras County that I do think Tuolumne County is much better than Calaveras, so thank you for spending money here, that our restaurants are better, our medical care is better. Pretty much everything's better, but that's okay. So, and I also thought about another term he used, moral hazard. And I was thinking about this, and I think a better example would be our governor, which appoints the parole board. This kind of got lost in the news because of the whole Iran thing. He appoints his parole board. Now, he doesn't have direct control over them, but he could write a letter, he could show up, he could speak to them about the fact that they released a gentleman by the name of David Funston. David Funston is a 16 count convicted child predator. Worst of the worst. They gave him 3 life sentences plus a bonus 20 years just for fun. That parole board had decided that after 20 years, he's probably good to go. We can release him. This is not someone that was 18 that had a relationship with a 17-year-old. This is somebody that lured little kids into a van. And we all joke about where the jokes come from the van. This is it. He used Barbie dolls. He used candy. He is the worst of the worst. And they decided to release him. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is I like to also give praise to Morgan Gayer, I think his name is. He's the DA from Placer County. He had the guts to say, yep, as soon as they release him, we're going to recharge him with something else because that guy can never get out. He is dubbed the monster parents fear the most. That is a direct quote. I believe it was from the judge in that case. So I just hope one day Tuolumne County has somebody like that that can, that will pursue things like that, because people like that should not be on our streets. If anyone's a parent, especially a daughter's, you should be sending him a thank you card or maybe a Christmas card this year. So that's all I got.
All right, thank you. All right, our next item will be the consent calendar. Are there any items for the consent calendar that the board wishes to pull? Seeing none, go ahead. Madam Clerk, would you please read the consent?
Item number 1, approving the memorandum of understanding MOU between the County of Tuolumne and County of Mariposa for housing of incarcerated persons remanded to the custody of the Mariposa County Sheriff. Item number 2, approving the reappointment of Jen Salazar to the Behavioral Health Advisory Board with term to expire November 30, 2028. Item number 3, adopting resolution 25-26, continuing the local health emergency in Tuolumne County due to the immediate public health threat caused by hazardous waste and debris from the TCU September Lightning Complex fire, as required by California Health and Safety Code 101080. Item number 4, approving the California Mutual Aid Region 4 Inter-Region Cooperative Agreement for Emergency Medical and Health Disaster Services. Item number 5, approving 1, the award of the contract in the amount to not to exceed $250,000 for the purpose of on-call solid waste and recycling consulting services with HDR Engineering, Inc., and 2, delegating signature authority to the Director of Public Works for task orders issued under said contracts. Item number 6, approving the reappointment of Mike Griffin to the Board of Supervisors Solid Waste Committee for a term to expire March 3, 2028. And item 7, approving the reappointments of Dick Southern and Denise Simpson to the Area 12 Agency on Aging as District 3 representative with terms to expire on March 3, 2030.
All right. Board comments?
Yeah, I was just
None?
wanting
Nope.
to comment on the number 8, expanding for our RFPs. This is something great for locals who want to do an RFP for local bids. It gives them a little bit of a preference. We want to keep our tax dollars here. We want to keep contractors.
Yeah, I was.
Oh, it's not?
Yeah, you said number 8. I was gonna throw the flag here.
Oh, darn it. I wrote it as consent. I jumped the gun. That's
Yeah,
it.
real
Sorry.
good.
I gave my juice away.
All right, we'll try this again. Any board comment on consent items? Supervisor Kirk?
No.
No? Okay. It's a tough crowd today. All right, my only comments are, as always, I really appreciate the people who are willing to volunteer. Appreciate Mr. Southern and Ms. Simpson, as well as Ms. Salazar. Again, time is money, and sometimes your time is way more valuable than any check you can write. So when you're out there and you're volunteering and you're representing organizations and groups and bringing that data back to us, it's very appreciative. So I want to say thank you to them. But other than that, good work. Supervisor Holland? None?
And I'll just really briefly highlight item number 1, the MOU with between Tuolumne County and Mariposa. I just really enjoy working with Mariposa County. I think our sheriff and their sheriff work together really well. And, you know, we have that big jail and it's just finding ways uh, to get win-win between different communities. And that is exactly what this is. You know, it's something that we try to do a lot. We do it through probation with the um, juvenile justice facility and then with their jail. Um, anyway, it's just good to see. It's good to work with Mariposa and glad to see this MOU.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll open it up to public comment. Going once, twice. All right, bring it back to the board.
Move to approve the consent agenda. Or
I'll second.
calendar.
All right, we have a first to approve by Supervisor Brandon, a second by Supervisor Holland. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Passes 5-0-0. All right. That'll take us on to, we have two 10 o'clock appointments. We'll go ahead and we've got 15 minutes. We're going to go ahead and try to knock out the county administrator. Administration, if that's okay. All right. Housekeeping, are we keeping or pulling number 9?
Mr. Chairman, with the acquiescence of the CAO, I'd like to request on behalf of the County Council Office that we continue number 9 to either the next meeting or the 17th, so that we have a chance to little further advise staff a little further on that item.
Okay. Does the board have a issue with pulling this item until March 17th is what I'd like.
That's the day of a workshop.
Yeah.
So I believe we're going to have a meeting on the 24th.
24th, my mistake. Thank you.
I have one question on it. Obviously, these are projects coming up. Is the delay, I don't want us to hit a point where we say, well, the project's about to open. We have this meeting to basically decide this. Right now, we have a little bit of time. If we delay it a month, I'm worried we're hitting other timelines. So if we delay this, will that still give us time to deliberate?
I think that it'll be important for us to stay in communication with the two sites and make sure that they're aware that when it's going to go to the board and what we anticipate. But the first one I think is not scheduled to open until April, so we'll be pretty tight. So for that schedule,
I that's from the memo was the concern is one is opening soon. So
right.
Jared, back to you, but my
yes,
concern is that
I-
it's for sure going to impact that.
Do they need to have this in place before they open?
Well, and
That's
that's
a
kind of
good
the discussion that we're, so I think I am the reason that we're asking to pull this. I have some very strong concerns about this. I have some very strong issues regarding this. And I want to make sure that what we're doing is in the right interest for the county, which is why I've asked for this to be pulled. So we can get better clarification on these funds and its operation and its implementation. So I am comfortable waiting until the 24th.
I would prefer we do hear it today, even if we don't have action.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying is can't we just talk, because we haven't even talked about this.
Well,
yet.
the reason why it's being pulled is that there's some legal issues that council is concerned about, that if we get into the woods on, that would raise some questions which we would not be able to answer at this time, and it could jeopardize this discussion in the,
We think we're going to be able to work those things out, but I think that staff would benefit from having the full advice of the county council's office prior to the board deciding the amount of the fee that's listed in the agenda item right now.
I mean, okay, I mean, if that's the will of the board, but we haven't been party to any of those conversations, so I don't know what legal issues you're talking about.
right, but.
We haven't
but-
even had a
Right, but
discussion
therein
about that
therein
yet.
lies the problem, that if we open
So-
up this discussion, then we open up that discussion, and before we enter that discussion, I want to make sure that not only is county council, but our attorneys as well as our staff are 100% up to date and briefed on the potential of the future conversation.
I
So,
just don't want people to come away with the feeling that that the decision needs to be made before we have the public discussion. You know, because
well, we can pull it for any reason. I mean, if my encouragement is that, I will leave it up to them, but I think if we open this can of worms, it's not going to go the way this board thinks it's going to go.
My concern is the same, is I know that I haven't seen the justification for the numbers. It's valid. But if it goes back to staff and it's worked on, I don't have any anticipation that I would again see that until it came back to the board, which kind of says, well, the number that comes to us is done without us being involved. So my recommendation stands on that, but of course the majority rules.
Well, I think if the attorney's saying pause, we ought to just pause. I don't know if 2 weeks is gonna make a difference.
I don't
Well,
always do what the attorneys say.
That's true.
And does,
I respect
does it not make a difference? Like, is this a situation where, like, again, we haven't talked about this, so I don't know the details. Is the business owner waiting for us to get this squared away before they can do what they need to do? Or can they go ahead and continue if for some reason there is a delay and we're not able to get this fee in
Well,
place? Can they?
My understanding is you have.
Because I don't want us to be the
Right.
reason why
So
their opening is delayed.
with that being said, yes, this item actually has been floating around since March 5th of 2025. Because we had a meeting on March 5th, 2025, and I raised those questions then, and we're still at that point now. I concur with you wholeheartedly that we should not delay the operation or opening, but we can grant them their occupancy, certificate for occupancy, and then sort this part out afterwards.
Well, I think it goes back to even 2024. My concern is, and this is maybe a staff question on the timing. If we grant a certificate of occupancy or
Right.
basically allow them to open, do they then have that? Can we then retroactively go back and
All
say,
right,
well,
so
you're only getting
we're-
30
we're
days?
way outside.
That's part of the consideration that we'll need to advise staff at in a confidential format, probably advise the board prior to your consideration of these items.
All right, I'm asking staff to pull this until March 24th. I don't know if that's a vote from the board. You either say yes or you say no. If you say no, then we'll move forward.
What?
I think it's a vote. Either you pull it or you don't. If you,
Yeah, we would like to pull it as staff, please.
right. So with that being said, going off of staff's recommendation of pulling this, my concerns, as well as county council's recommendation, we pause. Let's please bring this back on March 24th.
And we'll
Thank-
try and have the responses much earlier than that for the board and for staff.
Thank you. All right, with that being said, item number 8, Madam Clerk, please read item number 8.
Item number 8, consideration of waiving the first reading of an ordinance amending chapter 2.24 of the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code related to local vendor price preference.
All right, good morning, Board. Liz Peterson with the County Administrator's Office. Okay, so your ordinance code currently specifies that we provide or we offer a 5% price preference for local vendors, and that definition includes, or the definition is vendors whose primary place of business is within Tuolumne County. And so we offer a 5% price preference for goods specifically. When those vendors submit quotes for those things. And so we've been discussing how we can encourage the use of local vendors and expand that use. And so we're proposing today an amendment to the ordinance code that updates the local vendor price preference in a couple ways. So it keeps that 5%, but it applies it not just to goods, but also to services. So right now it only applies for when we get quotes, but this would also apply to when we get quotes for services, or I'm sorry, this applies for when we get quotes for goods, items that we want to purchase, but this would also now include services as well. And then we'll also expand to when we do requests for proposals. Or RFPs. And so the language in the ordinance code is proposed to change to update it that we would add 10 points to a local vendor's total score if that local vendor is the one submitting the proposal in the RFP process. It doesn't change the definition of the local vendor like location. You know, they still have to have their primary place of business within Tuolumne County. And then there is a specification there that does not apply to public works projects. As your board knows, it's a very specific state set requirement for how we bid public works projects. We have to take lowest bidder. And then there are there's other stipulations in there when that this wouldn't apply to instances where like state or federal funding prohibits that kind of thing. And there are instances sometimes when we bid projects, so we have to be careful about how we bid out. But generally, the local vendor price preference would apply. Again, the intent is to expand the use of local vendors as much as possible, and not just have it be to goods, but also to services, as well as when we do our request for proposals. So today I'm looking for your board to waive the first reading of the ordinance amending chapter 2.24 of the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code related to local vendor price preference. And if you do that today, we will bring this back for a second reading on March 24th, and then the new local vendor price preference would become effective 30 days from the second reading.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Holling.
I got a couple questions. Okay, so it's 5% on like purchasing of goods, but it's a 10% on like bids for RFPs or whatever we're calling them.
Yeah, it's not actually 10%, it's 10 points. So it typically that's 10%, yes. Most of the time,
Okay.
RFPs are set at 100%, so that would be.
So are we going off, because it actually specifically says 10%.
I think
So
it's 10
we like to
points.
do things 3 times, so if we
Oh,
got a fifth
sorry.
of this.
Yes, 10%, you're right. Sorry, 10%.
Okay, so it is 10%. Okay. So another thing it talks about that public works projects, right? So I believe there's a provision somewhere buried in the public works things that if it's a local certified small business, they meet those criteria, then we actually can apply this to it. Maybe the brain trust over there will look that up between now and next time we have the second reading of this and make sure we have clarification on that. Because obviously I think it's best that we drive
Yeah.
local government dollars to local government businesses, or not local government business, but local businesses, you know, instead of out of county, out of state, whatever. Anyways, that's kind of got about that. And then, so when will this come back again for the second reading?
On March 24th, so the next regular meeting.
Okay. Okay. And so this would apply to things like MSA projects?
That's right.
Okay. Continue on, because I hear rumblings that's going to change. Or is,
What?
is MSA, this will apply to MSA going forward? 330?
Yes. Yes.
You sound hesitant, so why are you
Well,
hesitant?
yeah, the reason why I'm hesitating is probably what you're referring to is AB 338, which is legislation that was passed a couple years ago, that it applies prevailing wage stipulations to fuel reduction projects. We're still working out the details of what exactly will apply to that legislation in how we bid out our MSA projects. There's a lot of exceptions in there, like projects that are $500,000 or less. That doesn't apply, but so it's yeah. There's also language about so it's tricky. I'm not exactly sure that the just while we're talking about this, the specific language in the MSA itself says that the county has to bid projects out according to best value, which is the RFP process. And so when we have the federal government saying we have to bid it as best value, but then we have the state, and we are a political subdivision of the state, saying we have to bid it by lowest bidder if it's a public works project, it gets a little tricky for how we navigate that. We have done that once before with a road project that we did under the MSA. So all this to say is there's a lot of things to work out, but our intent and our hope is still to apply this as much as possible to our MSA projects.
Because MSA is probably our largest
Yeah.
amount of
Oh,
money
yeah.
we shovel out the door to vendors.
And
that
we have,
going on.
I mean, that kind of work, we have a lot of contractors in the area that
Because
provide
currently
this type
now,
of
right,
work.
they do MSA work within certain distance of the road. That's what qualifies them for, they have to use
Prevailing wage.
prevailing wage. And we think that's going to continue that way, or are we trying to apply that to all projects as a whole?
We are not trying to apply it to
Okay.
things, but there, like I said, there's legislation that is
Okay.
perhaps requiring us. But again, there's a lot of stipulations in that legislation. As I said, there's 500,000. There's any work that's being done by a tribe. There's work that, like, if it's federal funds on federal land, but done by federal government. So there's just a lot of like nuance that we have to work out. There's language about apprenticeable occupations.
So maybe Dan, you'll help clarify that on the 24th, and then obviously also about that part about if you're a certified small business, which would encourage some
we'll
of our
look into
business
that
to be
for sure.
certified, that maybe they can be exempt.
Yeah,
from
we've
that.
been working through with county council just on the AB 338 interpretation, and and of course it's not just going to impact Tuolumne County, it's going to impact anybody who's doing fuel reduction projects, which at this point is statewide all the way down to LA County.
Okay. I think it's a great thing though,
Yeah.
overall, so thanks.
Thank you. Supervisor Brandon?
Great, thank you. Well, I'm really happy to see this on here. It's something I brought up over the years as well. How do we support local contractors and businesses as much as we can and get away as much as we can from just exclusively um, lowest qualified bidder? So my question is related to how this is actually deployed in Fresno County. So one of the challenges I think is where we may issue an RFP. Folks, all put in bids. They're really not sure. It takes time, energy to put in bids. That's harder on a local, smaller business than it is for a larger business that's tracking RFPs, that has staff that tracks them across, however many counties. In Fresno, they have a proposal that is, if the lowest bidder is not a local qualified business, they allow within a 48-hour period a new bid to be submitted with, as long as it was originally within a 5-point basis of the one that was the lowest. The idea being is that way they know what bid is out there and they get a chance to say, we can do that for about the same price. Would that be something we could adopt into this?
I have no idea, but I can look into it for sure.
Okay.
I should have mentioned to Supervisor Brandon and Supervisor Holland, if we make any substantial changes to this proposed ordinance code, I'll have to bring it back for another first reading. So it'll just delay it a little bit, but I think it's worthwhile if we can get these things addressed.
Well, I think to Jaren's point, I think we have a good expert on Fresno
Yeah.
sitting over there, so he might be able to reply on this later.
Well, that's a great point,
Yeah.
Supervisor. Fresno County. Fresno County, if the low bidder is not local, a local vendor within 5% can resubmit a new bid within 5%. That's under Fresno County, ca.gov, General Services Department, Purchasing Services. And I have the link and can
I
share
can reach
that.
out to them for sure.
I would like to see that added in. I think we can delay this a week if we needed to, or to the next meeting. I'm in support, but I also wanted to ask on public contract code. So this is all mostly, I think, within section 2002. At least is what I could find. The numbers I was finding was 5 to 7% often for that. I know that we have 10 in hours. I wanted to ask just about the justification of 10 points or 10 percentage points. Where did that number come from?
Yeah,
Or whether it's legal or not, yeah.
It was, yeah, I mean, it was an effort to try to encourage the use of local businesses. I mean, yeah, to
I was just say, I believe we have an allowance, my understanding, under the contract code, we're allowed to add these points to it, but we
You're saying
could,
for
for
public
example,
work
say
project?
30,
Are you saying for public works projects specifically?
public contract code. Anything under section 2002 of the public contract code, which I thought was the section which said anything
the
up to
ordinance code.
150,000 and then 5 to 7% for a local requirement. The question I'm getting to is there something written in the contract code or law that allows us to be able to do that 10%? Because the number I was often seeing was up to 7. I don't want us to adopt this and then say, well, the state actually doesn't let us go that high. Again, the extreme example is, could we make this 30%? I think the answer would be, no, we can't.
Yeah, so again, we're talking, for the 10%, we're talking projects, assuming the MSA projects, we're talking projects that are not subject to we're not talking public works projects that are subject to like state bidding requirements. These are ones that are dictated by your board local policy.
Well, they're under public contract code of the state. Maybe Dan, if you're able to weigh in, that was the section of the state code I thought that it comes under is
I think-
section 2002 of the
That's what I was talking about, Jared.
public
So
contract code.
when you have to go to prevailing wage and stuff like that, that's what puts you under that code versus we can keep some of those projects out of that, then they're not per se, and we use the word public works a lot, public works projects. The prevailing wage is what triggers that section a lot. So when the MSA, we'll use MSA for example, when they're doing works along the road.
Oh, I'm familiar with 338, right?
Yeah. So that's what gets into public works projects. So I think
And I'm not saying, I
what
never said
Liz is
public
saying
works.
is-
If I said that, I was misspoken.
I think what Liz is saying is
Public contract code.
we'd be out of that because they don't fall under, I think public contract goes with the
Well,
public works project.
well, and that's what Dan, can you weigh in on this?
Well, before we get to that, I mean, if you want to add that to it, that'll automatically delay this. So why don't we just delay it? You can submit your concerns and questions to them and we can come back. Because what I don't want to do is kind of get into the, well, it's the code, it's not the code, it's this, because clearly we're not the experts.
But this is a good time for the board to analyze what changes they want to the
Right.
ordinance.
Right.
And then.
And in line with that, how about
And we can verify that and try and work with staff.
Yeah,
to-
But I leave that
exactly,
with a
right.
question then to come back, is I want to just make sure the legal basis for the number that we pick isn't just what we think, but we know exactly what gives us the right to do that.
We did
specifically.
research with some other counties, and the 10% specifically came from Monterey County. Just not that
Okay.
just because one county does it, it's legal, but just for your
No, that's helpful.
Yeah.
That is helpful for me. The last thing I wanted to throw out on this is I was concerned that we didn't have a clear definition in the red line for what local was. So local being a local owner, local place of operation, like a rented space, how long they've been here, do they have employees here? It said primary operations are within our county. Well, George Reed is not primarily necessarily in our county. They're a major one in our county, but they operate a lot more in Stanislaus County. So I was wondering about that definition. It felt very broad. That would be subject to challenges if we were to award these contracts. I felt like that needed to be more specific. Say they have to have operated here for 12 months, at least maintain one full-time employee, stuff like that. That's a little more specific.
If the board wants to make recommended language changes to this, then yeah, I'd be happy to take that. I will just say we've never really struggled with determining if a vendor is local or not.
Mhm.
The language as it is right now and as it has been, in the ordinance code, we're proposing not to change it, but happy to take your recommendations.
We
local
we
vendor
haven't
means a-
offered a preference before, though. If we're giving
yeah,
more
we've-
preference over it, I would think some other entity that doesn't get it would then use that to challenge.
we've had this local vendor price reference before, and we've used it quite often for things. So the language of vendor whose principal place of business is within the county, that has been pretty clear, but again, like super open to your recommended changes. At this point, it seems like the door is pretty open, so lay it on me and we'll see what we can do to include all of your proposed changes.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Campbell? Nothing? Supervisor Kirk?
No, just what I said earlier. It's a good thing for our local businesses.
All right, now's the time to say it. All right. With that being said, I'll go ahead and open it up to public comment. Any public comment on this matter? Come on up.
All right, I got my glasses so I can read my phone. Sasha Farkas, Left Coast Land Clearing. I'm a vegetation management company based here in Tuolumne County. And probably the reason why this is before you guys, based on some of the Searle stuff over the summer. It's pretty clear that AB 338, which starts July 1st of this year, does make fuel reduction work, public works, if the project is over $500,000. Now, it's already illegal for an awarding entity like the county to piecemeal projects to keep them under certain thresholds. So county's projects are typically over $500,000. It's going to look pretty funny if all of a sudden these project sizes shrink tremendously. So I think it's going to be hard for the county to get out of the MSA work being considered public works. So many of you talk about living wages in Tuolumne County. Prevailing wage is a good living wage. So I don't think the county should be discouraging it. We should probably be encouraging it. If the rest of the contractors out there can get prevailing wage, why not? Fuels reduction work. It's what the state wants. Let's give the state what they want. Also, and I think Supervisor Holland mentioned it, so you can't just have local preference by itself, but if it is tied to something else, like certified small business, local preference, disadvantaged business enterprise, local preference, so you can attach it to other things and be in compliant with, the public works laws. There are some exceptions, which is true, when you can't give local preference, but for the most part, the county can make a few little tweaks to this, and a small business in California is an astronomical amount of gross revenue per year, and I doubt any fuels reduction companies are over that. So I suggest you guys look at this if you really want to support local business. And we're the ones that pay property taxes. We're the ones that have employees living here. Um, you know, my company pays over $10,000 a year in unsecured business property taxes, plus my 4 full-time employees and my own family. We spend a lot of money here in Tuolumne County, and we want to do work here. So I hope you guys look forward to supporting local businesses, maybe make some tweaks that are going to work for vegetation management companies in the county. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other public comments? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. So to support Supervisor Brandon's questions, I think if the board is okay, maybe we could put this on the 24th. And then if the board has questions or specific language that they'd like to see, email or contact that staff member and we can address it at that time. I see it. Heads nodding. All right. All right. Thank you. All right. So we have 2 10 a.m. appointments. We only have one item left on our regular agenda. So if that's acceptable to the individuals that are here for the 10 o'clock appointments, I'd like to take I'm getting the evil eye. No? Okay. We can take item number 10. We'll do that one and then we'll take a short break so we can get the presenter ready for item number 2 ready to go, and then we'll go from there. So,
Item number
Madam,
10. Oh, sorry,
go
sir.
ahead.
Item number 10, consideration of approving the updated county council annual salary of $197,448.5947 through $240,000.
Hi, good morning, Board. Karen McGettigan, Human Resources and Risk Management. Here this morning to address the salary of County Council. A few points that I think are important for the public to understand when we are making this recommendation. The first is that the role of County Council is not just an attorney that has some legal experience. The County Council is the chief legal strategist for the Board of Supervisors. They also provide the county administrative officer and myself with legal counsel. They advise constitutional officers, including the sheriff, and they're also responsible for advising on land use decisions, public safety policies, ordinance code, CEQA, Public Records Act, anything with a government code or a federal mandate. So essentially, every major decision the county makes passes through the office of county council and through county council. So it is really important that your board select a candidate who is capable and competent to advise on all of those areas and not just who we can find that may be willing to perform the job most cheaply. So the considerations for the position are about our exposure, our protection, and yes, cost is a factor, but it is not the only factor. We also have to look at the return on the investment. The county did run 2 recruitments and neither was successful. The first one was opened in September. No executive recruitment was used for that. We only received a pool of 3 candidates. When we have an unsuccessful recruitment, we have to look at the outreach efforts that we're making to see if there's an issue that we can control to increase that pool. Your board directed that we use an executive recruitment firm. The county used WBCP to do so. Their efforts were extensive. So essentially, they included a targeted list from what's called eData Masters, which pulls contacts with titles including county council, assistant county council, deputy county council, any senior level public agency attorney with experience in employment law, labor relations, land use, any of those areas that I mentioned. Those efforts were focused on professionals working specifically within the public sector, so cities, counties, special districts, state, federal, public law agencies across California, including smaller municipalities and special districts. So all of those other services were used to generate additional candidate lists with targeted filters. They also compiled a list of other previous candidates from other recruitments for similar roles. All 58 California counties, major city attorney offices, all special districts, municipal law firms, and public agencies were contacted. WBCP sent direct mailers, phone calls, emails, and texts to all of the people that they identified on that list. They also posted on a number of social media platforms and websites with a list that they estimate to have reached over 315,000 individuals. Their outreach demonstrated that we have a few challenges associated with finding the level of experience that we're looking for at this time. Um, Partly that was due to a lack of interest in relocating to a rural area, that we do not offer this position as a remote telework position full time, but the salary was overwhelmingly mentioned as the biggest obstacle to that recruitment. This recommended salary would still place Tuolumne County below market and below even just our neighboring counties. Calaveras County is offering $60,000 more for the same role. So it would still bring us, it would bring us closer to market, but it would still be significantly below market. If the county cannot attract someone with the experience level needed, we are going to have to continue to contract with external counsel. No offense to Dan here, but he is very expensive. It's an expensive contract for part-time work. And that is the alternative we have if the board is not happy with a pool of candidates. So again, county council is just a very influential and risk-sensitive position in the county, and I think this proposed salary reflects that scope of responsibility and also the cost of getting it wrong. Should your board not approve this salary adjustment, we would use WBCP once again to go back out for a recruitment. They do guarantee their work. Since the last recruitment was failed, they would not charge us for their consulting costs, but we would have to pay probably another estimated $6,000 in mailers and additional expenses. If we don't use WBCP, the cost of another external recruitment is typically between $35,000 and $40,000 per recruitment. Therefore, we recommend that you make the recommended salary adjustment.
All right, thank you. Bring it to the board, Supervisor Holland. I know, I get accused of always looking to the left, so I'm gonna look to the right this time.
Yeah, I go back and forth on this. Honestly, it's the way the wind blows on any given day on this topic. I like Dan, but you're right. I mean, I've done the math per minute. We know what it is, so we won't bring it up. I like to remind him of that fact all the time. Um, I think our previous county council, by the time you add it all together, we were probably paying this, if not more, somewhere close to that because of longevity and all this other stuff. So, being on the inside conversations we've had, I think we're going to end up somewhere near there anyway. So maybe if it attracts a better candidate pool, I go either way on it. I don't know. See what other my board members have to say on this on my way back in.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Brandon.
Great, thank you. Yeah, no offense, Dan, you're really valuable.
And are we doing questions or questions? and
Yeah.
comments?
We can do either. I mean, I think it's okay.
Okay.
Unless we want to.
Well, I was just gonna say,
Both.
I have similar concerns. We've had unsuccessful recruitments, I think so far looking at CDD, we've had this with council. Our employees are in a difficult spot with the pay that they make for most of the organization. I do see the just on its face comparison to Calaveras and it makes sense. There's a logic to it, but it sends the wrong message, and I'm really leaning towards wanting to see us look at something that is different. And I brought some of these ideas forward in different concepts, but these highly specialized, highly paid positions, sharing where we're not just hiring 40 hours a week, we are also hiring somebody that can advise the team and be a mentor who can, that we would be better in a rural area sharing this with other public agencies as one option, where it is very hard to recruit it here, having that be a teleworking position. Truth be told, we hire out to special counsels all the time who are teleworking for us. That's not actually that uncommon. It's only, do we have some of them in-house still? Or looking at different benefits packages that I would rather give them a one-time payment to buy a house here and put their kids in school than I would some of these ongoing things. Of course, my last thought was council. Previously, we were blessed to have for 20 years president of the statewide association, you know, longevity with the county, which is a good thing, was within this range, and I agree. But it was also somebody that had a lot of added value beyond just the qualifications to it. So it's hard for me to say that somebody new was going to get the amount of the person who was here for that period of time. So anyway, I'm waffling on it too, but I lean towards we have to address this issue for executive level compensation. Money doesn't seem to be really the answer, or if it's the answer, it's one that causes other problems.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Campbell.
Yeah, just a quick, so you mentioned that there was going to be an additional cost if we go out again for recruitment. I thought, what was that again? You said 15,000 or
No, it's
15?
approximately 6,000, and that's
6,000?
just the cost of the materials for them to print, the cost of the posting for those like niche sites that are specific to attorneys, and people that have those skill sets that the board has identified are important. So we will not be charged again for a consultant fee.
Well, I guess my question is, that's not included under the consultant fee? We have to pay that separately?
That's correct. We pay one contract with them.
Because we
They
hired
guarantee the
them.
work.
Okay.
They guarantee their consulting work. But yes, the cost of the materials would still be present
Okay.
if we went back out.
I remember reading the contract that we had, and it was that we pay them a flat rate and we don't have to pay them anymore until we get a viable candidate.
I mean,
And
you
we
could,
haven't had a viable candidate yet, so
well,
I'm just a little
there's
not
a
feeling
couple,
right
of
about having to
things
pay it.
there. Yeah,
Okay.
so we did have a viable candidate, that, as the
We
memo
didn't though.
explained, it was a viable candidate. The
If they don't
negotiations
work
fell
here,
through.
it's not a viable candidate.
Well, and that it should be noted that candidate took a job that is almost $100,000 more. So, that is the
So
reason
they
that
weren't a
that fell
viable
through.
candidate.
However, however, um, we could say that we don't want them to reprint the materials and use all of the same things, in which case there would not be a cost.
Okay.
If we wanted to make any other adjustments and they had to reprint,
Okay.
they would
Now,
charge.
my other question is, okay, that's the first thing is I feel like we already paid a lot of money to recruit a good candidate. We don't have a candidate yet. I don't want to pay any more. $6,000, it's not a lot in the scheme of the contract, but it's a bit of the principle of the thing. The other part is, why do we have to approve an increased annual salary first? Like, why can't we just fly it at 10%, 15% more than the previous, see what comes back from that? If we don't have any more viable candidates, fly it again for another 20%. Why are we making this very significant jump to $240,000 at the top end? Why is that necessary to approve that now when we don't even have anybody lined up that we know will accept this rate?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a couple of things on that. First of all, we are not going to automatically pay the 240,000. That would
Right.
be the top step.
Yeah.
So
But that's
anyone
what
that,
people are going to key in on is that big number.
so the intent in making the salary adjustment before rerunning it is to increase the candidate pool. That doesn't mean that that the county would have to make an offer at the top step. But that is the hope. Were you gonna?
Okay. Well, those are all my questions. When, yeah, I mean, I want to hear if folks have to say anything else, but yeah, I'll hold my comments.
Excuse me, one other thing just to add, Roger is reminding me, it may be important for the public to know, we do have to include, we are required to post the full salary range on any posting that we make as a public entity.
Okay.
So the full salary range would be advertised.
And I did have one more question, sorry. So this is for the top job in the county counsel's office.
That's correct.
We have deputy county counsel. Do we have assistant county counsel? Okay, so we have deputy county counsel is the next highest. What is the top tier for deputy county counsel?
Oh, I don't have that with me.
I looked it up. I think it's something like 140 or 135 or something like that. I just wanted to verify with you if that was correct. And I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
That's okay. We'll look it up.
Well, they looked that up. Could we have maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Supervisor Kirk, did you have any comments?
I just want to know what is the next
What
highest
that?
person in county council paid?
I was gonna wait till public.
Could be it.
Okay.
I might have a question later, but I'm still chewing on it.
Literally. I know. All right. Well, tell you what. Why don't we open up unless you have an answer? All right. So let's do this. While staff feverishly works on getting that answer for us, let's go ahead and open it up to public comment, please.
Good morning, Board and Chair. Carl Benson, District 1 constituent, County Employee, and Deputy Sheriff's Association President. I'm here today to support the recommendation of utilizing Amador and Calaveras counties as top step wage comparisons for recruiting and retaining critical Tuolumne County job classifications, such as the vacant county council position. The Deputy Sheriff's Association currently represents more than 150 public safety professionals who passionately serve Tuolumne County across 3 departments: the Sheriff's Office, the Probation Department, and the District Attorney's Office. We have been sworn in as patrol deputies, jail deputies, dispatchers, deputy probation officers, juvenile correctional officers, and district attorney investigators, just to name a few of our more than 20 critical public safety classifications. The Deputy Sheriff's Association contract with Tuolumne County expires in June of this year. The most recent wage adjustments applied to the Deputy Sheriff's Association classifications was in January of 2023. The combined wage increases from 22 and 23 have been championed as historic or record raises, when in reality, those adjustments were imperative as a direct result of deferred Deputy Sheriff's Association maintenance of any kind since 2019. Staffing levels plummeted across the board as we fell further and further behind compensation offered by competitors such as Amador and Calaveras counties. There was a significant cost to the quality of life for your constituents by failing to invest in those critical job classifications represented by the Deputy Sheriff's Association. Those quality of life costs included the dismantling of programs such as the Tuolumne Narcotics Team during the peak of the fentanyl epidemic in Tuolumne County, deletion of school resource deputies as our children were recovering from the COVID shutdown, and the loss of the inmate work crew, which brings honest hard work and public service experience to those paying their debt to society. Programs like these and others were cut due to critically low staffing levels created by years of neglect and below market wage adjustments. Today, those programs and more are in full swing thanks to the imperative wage adjustments from 3 years ago and to the fearless leadership of our associated department heads. But for how long? How long do you want to continue to roll the dice on critical public safety services as Deputy Sheriff's Association maintenance is deferred year after year? How much further behind neighboring counties such as Amador and Calaveras do you want to fall as we compete to retain and recruit a qualified pool of employees? In spite of lessons learned from less than 4 years ago, here we go again. January of 2026 marked the 3rd year in a row of the county deferring employee maintenance and specifically deferring maintenance for critical Tuolumne County employees represented by the Deputy Sheriff's Association. Here we go again. Since the new year, we've had 3 deputies and 1 sergeant resign. We currently have 2 dispatchers with resignation letters in hand who are on the path of accepting positions at a competitor's communication center. Soon you will be headed to your annual board retreat to work together on your budget priorities. Ask yourself, is your advertised commitment to maintaining critical public safety services a priority you plan to act
Sir.
upon? Or is it simply a
Sir, you're over-
catchphrase or a
Sir, you're over time.
campaign slogan? Thank you, board, for your humble
Sir.
service to Tuolumne County.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Well, when you have to wonder why nobody is inclined to be a viable candidate for you, I would take a good look in the mirror. I don't know that money counts to everybody, but I agree with Supervisor Brandon that this huge salary increase sends a message to your other employees. $40,000 may be a total salary for some of your employees for the year. And some of your employees have lost their homes in the current economic climate, and they haven't had a COLA raise in a long time. And your deputy sheriff's got a raise that you've all touted as a big raise that made all these differences. But the rest of your sheriff's department people didn't get a raise. So I'm kind of torn on the issue. Sarah finally got the job I think that she deserves and that she wanted, and I'm very happy for her. But I think you bullied her. And all anyone has to do is watch these meetings. And would I want to come and work for you? Sometimes I have a hard time just sitting in this meeting as a citizen.
Still morning. Morning.
Morning, sir.
Dave Vasquez, Sheriff of Tuolumne County. One, I always appreciate and encourage the public to come up and share their thoughts and their sentiments and the passion behind things like labor and things that get competitive that affect quality of life. We did hear from our Deputy Sheriff's Association president regarding those concerns. I obviously share some of those concerns when it comes to the operational tempo and what it takes to actually staff a sheriff's office and provide services. I will say that I do feel that the future is bright in what we're seeing and the employees coming in from those raises that we've seen in the last 3 years. They have absolutely made all of the difference in restoring those services that we all enjoy and that we seek safety and comfort under every day in this community. I will say to offer a bit of light at the end of that tunnel is that in my office specifically, we are working on several reorganizations specific to workforce reduction, looking at the areas where we have the consequential knowledge of how we can consolidate labor to address the pay and benefits for the lowest earners in our office. And so I just wanted to highlight that because I thought it was appropriate as it pertains to the conversation of how we address compensation. I would encourage all electeds and department heads to do the same thing of turn the lens inward to make sure that we're bringing positive solutions to this board as we are working together. And that partnership is what makes these things happen. It is a major reason why we are seeing the services that have been restored. And we look forward to moving into the next chapter of this negotiations, which sometimes can have difficult decisions and effects on labor. But for all the employees and all the troops that are out there listening and wondering what quality of life looks like as we head into that next phase, know that everybody's working together to make something happen and do the right thing. So I would encourage this board to continue the strong partnership that we have moving forward into these next few months. So thank you.
Thank you.
I think that I would support this. In fact, I'm going to steal a line from the late, great Rush Limbaugh, who said famously over and over again, "I'm the mayor of Realville." And I think fiscal responsibility is a very complex subject and discussion. And in my own business, we pay higher than any other competitor for a reason, because when we need an employee, we need an employee. And my question would be, do you think that that decision makes us, or my business, fiscally irresponsible or fiscally responsible? Do you think that that decision makes us less powerful in the industry, to use a strange word, I guess, or somehow less successful? Or do you think that makes us more successful? I mean, these are questions that you have to ask. And I don't think it's fair to compare every job in the county to every other job. This is an extremely important position, and I think it needs to be filled. I would also really like to see, you know, a county council with litigation experience and one who is not afraid to litigate. And so if it were me and I were making this decision, I think I'd raise it to 260, because if I'm hearing correctly, that was about maybe what some of the competitors were doing. And I know that's probably a very unpopular opinion in the public. But just based on my own experience, I think it's just necessary. Or we can just go on without one, you know, indefinitely, which is what would happen if I didn't pay people in my own business well enough. I wouldn't get employees, and then my business would just shrink to nothing. So, you know, there's decisions behind everything that we do. And again, fiscal responsibility is very complex. Just because you're paying some people more doesn't mean that you're fiscally irresponsible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Being a former small business operator, I really think it's important for you to realize that you are operating a business. You are the board that's operating the business of our county. To invest in qualified counsel in this case that are advising legal decisions for multiple positions in your county is really crucial. Every meeting, Pat and I stand up and we talk about all these violations that have happened. And yet it's still going on because of a problem with councils, maybe not county council, but a problem with a certain department not obeying the law like it should, not just county law, not just state law, but federal laws too. And perhaps hearing that over and over again, when they do research on your county, they find this overwhelming too, because we're not the only people that complain like this over and over and over. Maybe this is shocking to them. I don't know. This is supposed to be a small county, probably a little easier to manage. But when you hear stuff like that, what do you do? So investing in somebody who's capable of negotiating something with you and your constituents and staff decisions that don't necessarily match up is crucial and so important to keep the quality of life in our county the way it should be, to not have people, their lives being destroyed by just the environment created by breaking these laws. It is absolutely critical. I support the raise in the salary to attract these kind of people. And I have total confidence in all of you making the decision to hire the right person. I just want to tell you that. But I would like you to have confidence in what we're saying and please do something about it and have a person that can support that too. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further public comment? Seeing none, bring it back to the board. I'm going to lead off. Um, I, we did have a viable candidate. We just lost that viable candidate because of the pay, right? I mean, we just, I don't know how much I'll get in trouble here, but we discussed with that candidate several different options on compensation and back and forth and negotiations, and ultimately we lost out that candidate because that candidate chose to go to a higher paying area. Secondly, for the statements that are being made that this is a horrible place to work, that's not true, right? The reality is that we had a lot of people that were interested in working here. They just didn't want to commute, or they didn't want to, uproot their families. We had one candidate, and again, I'll probably get yelled at, that, was willing to do it, but didn't want to move his whole family here because, the kids are still in high school. And I understand that, having relocated with a daughter in high school. So, we throw all these things out there, and there's this big error that we're this horrible organization to work for. We're not paying this, or we're not paying that. And that's just not true. The reality is that we used a firm to go out and find a person. We had several candidates that were interviewed, and it boiled down to pay. So this is one of those positions where this individual keeps the county out of trouble. Meaning, it's not the board's attorney. It's not, the county council does not represent me as a individual. They represent the board. They represent the county. So when the sheriff's department are out there doing the great work that they're doing, and someone files a claim against them for excessive force or something stupid, our county council is there to pick up the reins and make sure that they're being defended doing the work that we're asking them to do. So we really want to have the right person in the job, and that has a dollar value to it. We are running a business. We are running a business, and we only have a certain amount of gold in the pot. To other counties, they have more resources because they have more public lands, they have more tax dollars, they have a lot of other options to fill those coffers that we don't. So we have to stretch the dollar as far as we can go. I am wholeheartedly behind the DSA. You know that. I've never hidden that fact in the past, that we need to make sure that those individuals, as well as all of our employees, are being fairly compensated for the hard work that they're doing. This is one of those positions. Without putting staff on the hook here, I'm assuming, if I went back off my past notes here, that we are, no offense against Dan here, but it's about $30,000 that we're paying him a month. Is that about right?
Close enough.
Right, $22,000. So, okay. So, but the reality, and that's been 6 months. So 25,000 times, I'm rounding up, 25,000 times 6, there's, the difference. So either we continue to pay with what we got, right, which is not economically viable, right? Or we raise the bar and say, this is what we're looking at. And to something that was said, whether it was this meeting or a meeting in the past, and it might have even been in closed session, so I'll probably get yelled at. But the question originally was if we raise the level at the original time if we raise the level of pay at originally the first outgo, would we have had more candidates? Well, we tried at the lower level. We made our best shot. We have this organization on the hook that says that they will do another firm, another search for us. $6,000 is not uncommon to have to pay for new materials and things like that. So I think this is one of those where, yes, to the public, it sounds horrible, but the reality is behind the stage, it's a great place to work. We had a lot of people that were interested. They want to live in a rural community. They want to bring their family here. They want to do their practice here. We're losing out on top candidates because of the funds, and it's like trying to run the Yankees on the Oakland A's budget. It's just not going to happen. So my 2 cents or my recommendation to this board is that we accept what's being presented and we move forward because the staff that presented it knows what the industry is calling for, and we have to make it work. Thank you. Supervisor Hud.
Thank you guys for everyone that put public comment in. Said I was on the fence, but listened to a couple, Mrs. Anderson and Mr. Thomas back there kind of hit a couple things that resonated with me. I do own small businesses. I get exactly what he's saying, how that works. I also agree that maybe a little more pay, we get some that's maybe slightly more aggressive, that I don't want to say go on the offense, but maybe we would save on outside contracts, and the saving of outside contracts would more than make up from that of all the outside attorneys. Sorry, Dan, that we hire. So maybe compensate for that. So I think I can get behind this as I sit here and think about this a little bit more.
All right, thank you. Go down the dais. Supervisor Brandon.
Thank you. I'm just going to highlight, it's interesting because we had some public comments here about, well, we should do this. We're in a market for talent, and maybe it comes with just some experience here on the board, but I was in some of those discussions of that opinion. I've seen over time that we get talent and it's not always that respective of pay. And that oftentimes a lot of the folks going for the highest pay tend to be the ones who are shopping and leave every few years and be able to go find it. And that sometimes there are better ways to do this, where we have options to, I think, get that talent, but do it in a different way. I've heard some of the folks who spoke in favor of this in the past very critical of the former CAO's salary and former county council and administrative salaries. I've heard folks blast this on Facebook over and over and over again. The upper range of this is $240,000. That is spitting distance, almost the same as what the former CAO's salary was. That was a huge point of critique by a number of folks about how much that individual was paid. Please correct me if I'm wrong with a full benefits package, everything. This will be approximately, $400,000 as a position? Fully loaded, benefits, everything? At the upper range, obviously.
I mean, I think that would depend on several factors. But yes, I mean, it would obviously be significantly more expensive.
Okay. So that's a concern to me. I think where I'm at on this is we hired a recruitment firm. They need to do their job. We paid them to do that job, not just to send some texts and emails, but to really hustle. I mean, we paid $35,000, something like that. It is not a small amount of money to conduct then a executive recruitment. I totally agree. If we're paying for mailers and paper, that's fine. That's expense. As far as the expertise, that's where a lot of that money went to, and I want to see that we're actually getting return on it. And if that doesn't work, then I think we need to figure out something different for that position and CDD. Because one of the things is, yes, this is important. It's a position of talent. If we're not paying for talent, we don't get talent. What about community development right now, where we're also not getting for lower level positions applications and other employment areas where I'm seeing vacancies in the county that also are a market for talent, that are also doing very important things that folks rely on. So the 4 that I would recommend we look into would be making this a remote position, looking at amending the contract to be something that is housing, whatever it may be, down payment, move assistance, a one-time payment to get them up here. I did hear that often. Similarly, it's the challenge of the move. Well, let's make the move easier, but get somebody that wants to work here for the measly amount of $1,000 every 1.5 days, which is not small. Or sharing it with other counties or public agencies. I don't know that we've issued an RFI to partner on that. I think that continues to be a really good path forward, but we have to be committed to it for some of this expertise. And the last bit would be, I would almost rather see us expand the number of county councils we have in that office to specialize in that work than I would to pay for another individual at another $40,000 or $60,000 increase. So I think right now I'm not in support of this, and I'm not sure that it makes sense.
We are required by law to have a county council, correct?
County council is one of the officers of the county in the officer list. Whether you have to have one or not, I don't think that's really specified in the government code. That's a good question.
It just goes to Supervisor Brandon's question or maybe comment, if I will. If I read into what you were saying is that, if we hired, 5 more, 3 more attorneys at that to cover that cost, then we would have more people available, right? And to do the work, right? So I just want to, I was picking up what you're putting down. I just want to make sure that if we are
Well,
required by
you would-
law to have a county council,
You would still end up with somebody running that office for you, and under the ethics
Right.
rules, whoever's supervising ends up with the responsibility for the attorneys that they're supervising.
Well, and maybe I can clarify that, and it'll be short, but I think it's useful. I don't want to say the P word, but during the pandemic, right? We needed a public health specialist, highly experienced, credentialed, and all of that. We were struggling at the time to find it. We shared that level expertise between how many counties? 3, 4, 5, something like that. We had our own public health teams, we had our own staff, but we shared the expertise because you don't always need 40 hours there of expertise. It's really when the complicated stuff comes up. We can hire a regular county council to handle 90% of the things that come through. It's that really important 10% that you need somebody that's got the 20, 30 years. So that's a model that I think of when we have some of these. We've had it for surveying, I think CDD. When we need to hire these skills, they're not here. We're having to pay to import it, and then they're not necessarily going to stay. That's the model that I thought worked actually really well and balanced a lot of those needs.
Supervisor Campbell.
Thank you. HR Director McGinnigan, do you have the answer to my question earlier?
I do.
about-
I apologize
Okay.
for the slow.
No problem. I put you on the spot.
Internet. Our IT director is on it.
It's all Roger's fault.
Deputy County
Again.
Council 4 is 154,337. So approximately 40% difference.
That was. Oh, wait, 40%? Wait, 154 at the top end, right?
154 at the top end. Yes.
It's more than. Oh, okay, I get you. So about 190, $86,000 difference somewhere in there. Okay. All right. Yeah. So, I just think about who is watching. We have our taxpayers watching, we have our employees watching, and what are they going to say? It is true that we're talking about, this is not an ordinary position. We're talking about somebody that requires a Juris Doctorate. They require a lot of education, a lot of experience at the lead a department. People who in those positions generally have put a lot of time and energy into developing their education and their certifications and their experience, and they deserve to earn more. And that's just how it works, is that people with that level of experience, with that level of liability and responsibility are going to get paid more. But one of the things that I was just struck by is some of the comments is putting in the context of how you hire for a business. You need good people at a business. No business that I know hires people this way. We're coming out there saying that this is the pay range before we even have finished looking at candidates. My position is, as it has been, that we should bump the pay rate, say 10%, maybe 15%, as we market it, and then see who applies. Because, Supervisor Griefer, I must have heard something different than you did, because what I saw was there was one person that seemed interested in working here. She ended up taking a job not for $40,000 more, but for $85,000 more. So unless we're prepared to pay $85,000 more than what we're advertising here, then we are not going to get a candidate like that. The other, well, I don't want to say, but there were other people that had applied, and some of the reasons that they cited was the culture that we have here at the board, on the Board of Supervisors and in the county. And that, I think, is the elephant in the room that we're not addressing. Until we address the problems with the culture in the county, we are never going to get good candidates unless we are willing to pay a premium. And that, to me, is asking the taxpayers to cover for us because we are not willing to address the culture in the county. And I don't think that's right. It is not a coincidence that we can't hire for a community development director. We can't hire inspectors. We can't hire any of these positions. Lawyers, we're having so much trouble hiring all these positions that have been the target of this Board of Supervisors in the past. Am I crazy for drawing a connection that nobody wants to be in those positions that have been so targeted by this board that we're having now trouble hiring for those positions?
Yes.
Okay, well, you and I see it differently then.
Well,
So
go ahead, sir.
the fact is that until we address the cultural problems here, we're never going to have an easy time hiring people unless we're paying premium. The last thing is that we, this position pays, if we raise it to this, it's $85,000 to $90,000 above the next highest level in that department. I have talked about it. I've heard support on this board for focusing on the bottom 1/3 of wage earners within the county. These are our road workers, our custodians. They're the people that keep the lights working. They're the people that clean the gutters, the people that keep our parks clean. Essential, critical roles in the county. And this is just a slap in the face that we are following down the same path that the county always has, is that we look at the people at the top and we prioritize them over the people that are supporting the entire organization. And you could make arguments, and I would as well, is that this is a very important position. You have to pay these type of people more, but I feel that we're not respecting how it's going to be viewed by our employees. And just all of this emphasis on priority to this position over everything else that we need within this county, I think it's the wrong path. Like I said, my position hasn't changed. I think we should fly the position for 10% more. Ask our contractor to cover those costs to fly the position again. We have not had a candidate accept a position. To me, having a candidate come in for interviews, accept the position, that is a viable candidate. We have not had that yet. So that's where I stand.
Supervisor Kirk.
I just want to acknowledge that nobody interrupted you and cut you off, so please don't do the same when I speak. I'm curious if we want to solve this problem, to Jaron and to Supervisor Campbell. My question to you is, do we want to solve the problem of hiring county council? When I'm done speaking, I'd like to hear from you. Because Ryan, I was really hopeful that we would keep this a business, but you're turning it into this cultural war thing again. The grand jury report calls out what this board did years before. We're cleaning it up. You said that nobody wants to work for us. That's not true. We're going through a CDD director hiring process right now, and there's applicants. People want to work for us. There's one person who's very motivated to come work for us in particular. When it comes to inspectors, you know that there's a reason why we were unable to hire inspectors, and that is coming. What is it, end of March? April, we're going to start the process.
Oh, well, as far as building inspectors, we actually have a very strong candidate pool right now.
So
that
thank
we're
you.
interviewing.
Point made. When it comes to attorneys, the lady who almost took this job, Roger, Karen, why don't you go ahead and tell the public what she thought about our board?
She spoke very positively, very highly about the board. She was very enthused, and I do think that pay for her, and as it does for a lot of our candidates, includes relocation costs. So when you are getting these specialized things, there's other factors.
That's fine. Thank you. The point was, she spoke very highly about our board and the direction that things were going. So when you sit here and you do the culture war thing, it's just not panning out for you. And the rest of the public is starting to see it, and it's not working out. So we will have a CDD director in the future. We will have inspectors, and we will have an attorney. The question before us is, do we want an attorney now, or do we want to keep kicking this can down the road? This whole board has publicly stated and in closed doors stated We want to address the bottom third of the organization with pay. We absolutely want to do that. But as Mike in the audience spoke, for too long, all ships have been treated as equal, okay? There are things that have to be a priority in county government. Our constitutional obligation is public safety, law enforcement, fire, and then the infrastructure to get them there, roads. This position, although it's not public safety, it's one of those like we can't function without it type situations. So we have to address the situation. If we want to kick the can down the road for 6 more months so you can continue your culture war thing, I'm not going to be a part of it. We could have secured that lady maybe for $30,000 more. I think we could have gotten her for $30,000, and I said that, and I said we should do what we can because Mike, this is the only attorney I've ever interviewed who said let's litigate against people for right. We were about to have an awesome county council, and we let her go for probably $30,000. And part of me wonders, do we let her go to send a culture war message? I don't know. I can't speak for them. I can just speak for myself, which was no, we need it. It's critical. So until these games stop, I'll move forward with whatever we got to do. If that means this, then so be it. We're going to open up a pool. We're going to get a lot more applicants. My question is, when we get more applicants, are we going to have the same conversation? Because we had somebody great. So my response is very simple. Let's move forward with this. Let's fix the problem and stop kicking the can down the road. We're going to see a completely new organization over the next year unfold. And when we can get our priority budget focused endeavors secured and we have real simple math, like you got 5% coming in, you can't spend 6% going out. It's called projections and trends, people. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience and on TV listening, we are fixing structural projections and deficits that have been using fund balance and things in the past to paint pictures that weren't true. We just need a few years to work it out. And then absolutely, the bottom third has to be addressed. Because I don't know if you guys remember, but during COVID, which I did not support, what was the government and what was the side saying? Oh, these people they're not critical. You didn't hear that come out of my mouth, but now all of a sudden it's critical? Come on. It's all a game. Every single one of you who is listening to this is critical. I got snow plow drivers who are staying up all night, who can make more money at Taco Bell. We got to fix that. We got to fix that because while the rest of us are on our computers and our iPhones doing Facebook wars, we got people out in the trenches doing the hard work. We got to fix that. But it takes time to change a budget to do that, and we're on our way, but need a little bit more time. So that's all I have to say. Fix the problem. Do what you need to do it.
So with that being said, I was hoping to kind of wrap this up, but I know, but that's what I was going to say. Relax. As I was going to say, so Supervisor Campbell and Supervisor Brandon, if you wish to respond, you can. You don't have to. And then Supervisor Holland has a final question remark, and then I'd like to call for a vote since I'd like to get a potty break in. Supervisor Campbell or Jaron?
Either way.
Great. I just want to note one thing, and this is for, let's say, the good of the order. Personnel decisions are done in closed session. We've now identified the gender statements, pay, and the pay of the position that the person took. Very easily, this person could be found through that. So in this, the closed session privilege of that has been violated, in my opinion, and I think this is something that we need to be mindful of. And I think it's something that we need to be mindful of with council. Second thing, I think there are some real issues to bring it into using the word culture war to me is exactly the bringing it into politics. I think it's really valid for us to question if we have a morale issue within the organization. I think it's valid to say we do. It's not the only reason for everything, but it is something that we have had some positions that have been vacant for a long time. Will they be filled? Absolutely. But they have been vacant for a long time. We had a lot of people leave all at once, some of which may be healthy for the organization, and I think some of which was unanticipated and causing problems. That's not a culture war issue. That's I think a statement of fact. And this is an issue within the county council's office. This is something that we are now dealing with. We have a temporary contract because we lost a very qualified career employee. It's worth asking why, and why haven't we been able to fill it as easily, and why aren't we getting a broader selection of candidates? And I think just saying that the conduct of ourselves on the board, and it's not saying you did it or you did it. It does impact the morale. I've heard this from other employees. I've heard this from outside agencies. They do watch this stuff. They do care about these conversations. I think the big issues I see here are also around executive compensation strategies. Rural areas are always going to have this. If we brought this position back and we said, it's now, let's say however many, it's been 7 years, Roger's been CAO, Roger's finally ready to retire from that and the other 5 jobs that we've given him. To be able to keep up that work, that level of skill, a highly credentialed position, the head of the entire organization, he deserves to be paid $280,000. That is not an unreasonable thing around the state. I could point to many jurisdictions that pay more than that. But also, there was immense public outcry about the pay of the previous CAO. That was about $250,000. And so, yes, there's a logic to it. Yes, there's a reason there. I don't think it's a culture war issue. We are all struggling with those types of issues. So I don't appreciate that. Some of the comments there. When I ran against an incumbent. To borrow a term, I ran to drain the swamp. You were part of that swamp when I filed a grand jury report and asked them to look into those issues. When the fund balance issue, to take a specific, came up, it was a 4-1 vote. I voted to never use fund balance. Some of these things, when it came to law enforcement, I have been encouraging and fighting for those investments there. These were relevant. These were made as specific statements against me. I'll close with this. I agree. We had to do those investments to be able to catch up on years of deferred investments that left us so far behind that it was an office that was collapsing. In other areas, it was too. 22, 23, we managed to get some of that stuff done, but we didn't seem to get a lot of it done in 2019 and 2020. So it's all to say is there's a lot of talk. I haven't seen a lot improve except a few things close over the last year. And we should, as a group, as a team, not be trying to fight each other on that.
Supervisor Campbell?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to respond to that. A lot of that was personal attacks, and I'm not going to play that game. I don't exactly know what you mean by culture war, but it seems like anything that I say that you don't agree with counts as a culture war, or that my motives are somehow there's something wrong with my motives. My motive is this: I want to get effective county council to protect our community and this county organization for a cost that is reasonable for the taxpayers. It's exactly what our job is here on the board. And I'm not attacking anybody's motives on this board. I include myself in this when I say we have to address a cultural problem at the county before we are going to have any kind of solution to these hiring issues. You can make all the promises you want and say and use good, cheap words to say that all these things are going to be resolved just over the hill. But until we actually look at ourselves and take responsibility for the decisions and the actions that we've made as supervisors, we're not going to get anywhere. And so just pretending like this is a purely a financial issue is, I think it's disingenuous. And I'm not apologizing for saying that.
Thank you. Supervisor Holland?
Okay. I was sitting here looking at the HR memo that we were provided, and something kind of struck me here looking at this. If any of you guys gone out and hired, well, let me back this up. The county has a lot of different positions, right? We have law enforcement, we have building inspectors. That's not really a real common job in the private sector, right? We don't have a lot of building inspectors. So when we compare those jobs to other counties, that kind of makes sense. But then when I sit here and look at the county council, which is a lawyer, we are competing with the private market. And our county council would be like, I guess would be like a senior partner or owner of a corporation, something, whatever law firm. So we can hire the top lawyer of that law firm, which is usually the best mind, at a rate of between $95 and $115 an hour. Has anyone gone and hired an attorney anytime lately? I would be nervous hiring an attorney at $95 an hour. And no offense to our attorneys, but I'm saying, like, when you go out to the private sector, you don't find those numbers. I mean, when we contract out for outside legal service, I believe the billing is running between $300 to $600 an hour. So that is 3 times what we want as our head county council. And these are and that 95 to 115 is what HR is asking us to go to. So I think we have to step back, and because I agree with Jaren about when we share with Surveyor, I think, you know, we're working on that, I believe, currently, and that's going to be a great idea. But we don't need a surveyor here all the time. We need the lawyers kind of here a lot. So, but I agree with you about that. I think that's been a win. It will be a win. So, but here, as I said, we're competing with the private market. That's where our former one went, is into the private market. And so when we step back and look at it, it's $95 an hour to 115. Make some calls around town. Tell them you can find a lawyer at that rate. And if you can, tell them we got a job opening for them, will you? And you know, we need them specialized in a whole bunch of areas. So I think everything else we're talking about aside, let's just get back to what we're supposed to do here. I think when we look at it through these lenses, this is what we're competing with this job. It's not like a building inspector where we're just competing with other counties. We're also competing with the private market with attorneys, right? I mean, one of us has a wife that's attorney. He'd probably agree that those are probably low rates for attorney hours in the public world. So I think that's something to consider when we're thinking about this, is that we are competing with that private market as well. So anyways, just something that struck me in the memo.
All right, like I said, unless you wish to make a motion or something severely important.
It was only a comment on that, and I just wanted to say I appreciate the comment. I think that's constructive. May disagree, and I'm not on a hard edge of this. I did want to throw out that some of the folks that did leave the county that were on the building side, there is a whole private, you know, a lot of the contracts and that. Well, there's a lot
Right.
of boots and stuff.
let-
All to say
stick
is,
to the
I
topic.
recognize your point that we are competing with the private market there. So I just appreciate that.
I was just gonna throw in, I agree with Supervisor Brandon Holland. Anywhere that we can share an employee somewhere with the region, like, let's make that part of everything moving forward if we can, Karen, but this position, I don't see that happening. So that being said, if we're ready for motions, I'll make a motion that we move on staff recommendation.
I'll second it.
The floor is open
I made the motion.
to accept as is,
Yeah.
as presented. Okay, so we have a,
I'll second it.
thank you. Okay,
Did you want to make a?
I hate to do it, but we got the thing. I wanted to make a substitute motion, which would be we refly the position at the previous approved class with 10% basically increase.
Second.
What's the current increase percentage wise? Karen, 20?
20.
And your recommendation still remains 20?
It does, but
Okay.
there's just a couple of other things I just wanted to add briefly. I know these poor people who have been waiting for their appointments. First, I want to say, just point of clarification, we spent 29,000 on the contract. It was not 35. If we wanted to go back out, it would be 35. I do want to say that I've been working very closely with WBCP and with our county administrator's office, as well as with other attorneys, to come up with this salary. So this isn't something we, just randomly selected a 20% increase. And then just to the comment, it has been brought to my office several times when we use the language about draining the swamp. That is really hurtful to the staff who is here. And so, as you heard from our DSA president, who is here, people who are staying despite the fact that they are paid typically anywhere between 10 and 40% below all of our neighboring counties. That is a reality, and they still want to be here. And so when you have these executive positions that are paid a little bit more, they can withstand that a little bit longer, which is why you have them that stay in those positions. They actually are the furthest out of
Can I ask,
market.
this is a point of order because I have a motion on the
hold on.
table.
I just need to add that, and I need to explain, I will be coming back with the county administrator to provide a more comprehensive overview of salaries in the county, hopefully by the last meeting in March. But I just wanted to clarify that language to say, the people that you have that are here want to be here and they want to do the right thing. And I think this salary reflects what you would need to do to put us second from the bottom of California counties who are advertising right now. This would make us a little bit higher, it would take us ninth from the bottom. So this is not an outrageous salary.
All right, thank you. All right, and so Well, we have a motion per.
Well, here's the issue, is
Hold
when we
on.
have that,
Hold
and there's
on,
no
hold on.
opportunity to respond, we can't allow one side and
I'm
then,
not-
and
I'm
then
not-
say we have a motion
I'm
on the
not
table.
allowing one side. I was going to reiterate your position is that I believe the motion on the floor is to fly the position at 10% of what it was plus 10%. Is that correct?
That is the motion. That is not the response to what was said, which was an argument opposing that.
No, she was defending the reasoning why we got to that number. Yes, Supervisor Kirk asked what the percentage number was, and yes.
That was not the answer that was given. The answer
Okay,
was much more than here's what.
Okay, well, we're here now. So do you wish to proceed with your motion or not?
I would like to proceed with the motion.
Thank you. Now I don't recall which one of you made the motion, so
Supervisor Brandon motioned, I seconded.
thank you. All right, so we'll call for the question. All in favor of Supervisor Brandon and Campbell's motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed?
Oppose.
Opposed. All right, so with that being said, it fails. Goes back to the original motion on the floor, which is Supervisor Kirk and then Supervisor Holland accepting the the presentation as is. Call for the question. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
No.
No, okay.
We said
Right,
at the
so-
same time.
Oh, did you? Okay, my apologies. Sorry,
Thank
with that being said, that final vote was 3-2-0. So the board hereby gives direction to county council or to HR to fly the position as presented. With that being said, I grossly overestimated the time on that one. I apologize, everyone. If we could take a 10-minute break, so at 11:20, we'll have everybody come back for the first 10 o'clock appointment. All right, so we're going to go ahead and resume our meeting. So we'll take the first 10 o'clock. Is there anyone here from the Planning Commission? Okay, I will consider that item vacated, and we will move on to item number 2. Madam, please read.
10 a.m. Item number 2, discussion and direction on projects for Community Development Block Grant CDBG 2025 grant cycle.
Okay?
That would be me.
Oh,
Sorry.
there we are.
Yes, so as you are aware, we have our consultant that assists with this and actually leads most of it. Lori Adams is online. I came to the board back in January. We had 2 public meetings trying to solicit public feedback on projects that they were interested in for the upcoming application for CDBG. We had pretty good participation. However, a lot of the projects were not ready at that point to be able to be part of the submission. So I will, but we do have some items that we want to discuss with the board. So I'll pass it off to Lori if she has something she wants to present and has a list of the projects that were submitted.
Good morning, board. Thank you so much for your time today to discuss the applications for CDBG under the 2025 NOFA. The previous applications that were planned to be submitted, which were for the food bank, the transportation program, and the Columbia Fire Station, were not submitted for under 2024. So for 2025, we went back out and conducted public hearings on February 4th in Sonora at the board office, as well as February 5th in Jamestown at the community center. And as Roger mentioned, we had excellent turnout. It was very nice to see those community members come out and speak about projects. Also, as Roger said, many of the projects that they brought forth were eligible, but yet not ready for this particular application cycle. But I can go over those with you. The only project that we actually have ready to go is the food bank with ATCA. That project was going to make application in 2024 and is continued to be ready to make application for 2025. The other projects and programs that were discussed at the public meetings included the Sierra Senior Program for Meals on Wheels. They have confirmed that they are not ready for this cycle, so we just want to make that known. We had conversations around resource officers for schools.
to address the youth at risk and also potentially after school programs for youth at risk at the schools, homeless services, discussion regarding aging infrastructure, and that includes Jamestown Sanitary District, looking for some sewer upgrades. Jamestown Community Service District had a force main project that was discussed. And then also a Jamestown Business Attraction Toolkit Planning Grant was suggested. And then the last program that was discussed was a program through the Council of Arts discussing an incubator program with potential live-in or live-on-site development, as well as a development for arts in the school. Of course, there are many nuances to CDBG, as you are very well aware of, and many things that we would need to discuss further and hone in on to complete many of these projects and programs that aren't quite ready. For example, on Jamestown Sanitary District upgrades are very, very close to being ready to go on that one, other than the environmental process, which would have to be near complete in order for us to make that application. And I think we did confirm that that was not ready to make application under this cycle. But many of these projects will be eligible under your next cycle. And I also need to discuss the fact that you did have residents from Columbia show up in regards to the fire station project. We did make clarification on some of the plans that have taken place to address that that need in that community. But they did show up and state that they did support continuing that project. So what we are here for today in front of the board is to obtain direction on the application. As I said, currently the food bank at ATCA is the only one that is prepared. The application is due on April 2nd. So we do not have a lot of time to start a brand new program because there is quite a bit of conversation and coordination that we must do before we make an application with a nonprofit organization to do a program, as well as the projects requiring quite a bit of work in advance to make an application for it. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have and throw it back over to Roger if he'd like to add anything.
All right, I'll just go down the list here to Supervisor Kirk.
Sure, a few questions. I heard ADCA and I heard school resource officers. How much could they be eligible for from this grant?
Yes, so the program portion of the grant is $300,000 per application, and you're only allowed 2 applications. So each of those programs would have a maximum of 300,000 less 19,000 for general administration. So I believe it's 280,
Okay, so ACA,
71,000.
ACA,
81,000.
ACA applied and they're eligible for up to 300,000. School resource officers applied and they're eligible for up to 300,000. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, the school resources officers, there's not an application in there. There's quite a few programmatic components to that project or program that we would have to determine eligibility. We did share a little bit of information with Roger in regards to what schools might be eligible for that. It would not be across the board because, as you know, these programs are tied to income. So we would have to work with schools that were basically Title I schools to ensure compliance.
Okay. Do you want to speak to any?
Well, I do want to, Lori, I've been working and sent some more data over to Beth even today. All the data sets from the Department of Education, State of California, identifying the schools that qualify for the reduced lunch program, reduced or free lunch program, included the data sets regarding the schools in Tuolumne County that and their homeless populations associated with homeless populations, and data sets regarding the populations at each one of the schools. I won't speak to how the program is ran. I will leave that for the sheriff, but I did send you and Beth a write-up of the program It is servicing all the schools within the county. I do think that we can identify a percentage of those schools that would qualify and be able to equate that to the percentage of how much it costs the sheriff to run that program and maybe apply for that percentage.
All right, I just have a couple more questions. On the previous grant conversation, I'm assuming we can't put this money towards running a fire station personnel related costs. We could do one time, but not like paying staff to run a fire department, correct?
Correct. Operations is not included.
So I can't fund the CAL FIRE contract with any of this money. Okay. My last question is, Lori, has TUD reached out to you for any of these block grants? I don't know if you're aware of the situation, but we just had 95% of Tuolumne County's water just cut off from the flume going down. Although the flume is owned by PG&E and TUD operates the water that flows through it, there is a reservoir south of the flume that would hold 25 acres that could give Tuolumne County, depending on the season, anywhere from a week to 2-3 weeks worth of water supply. Have they been in touch? Because I would love to put the remainder of any of those funds towards that project. It's a $6 million project. And if I'm hearing 300,000 could go to ACA and 300 to our schools to keep them safe, and then I could put 3 million towards that reservoir, would that, so my question is two, have they been in touch? And I'm assuming that could be utilized for that project?
I did have a document sent over to me to review. It is if I'm not mistaken, an entire area of Tuolumne County. I'm not sure that we would hit the required percentage to meet the 51% eligibility for that project. I believe it is too broad of an area, but I do not have those details to say that definitively.
Sorry, could you explain?
Also,
Could you explain the 51%? What is that?
Well, Supervisor Kirk,
the low to mod income qualification for a project means the area serviced by that particular project would need to be an area of the county that is at or below 51% of the area median income for the county.
So that would be kind of sticky because if that water would be providing water potentially for 95% of the county, I don't know how
Correct.
to
It would
qualify
not.
that.
right.
What is that? Mike, go ahead. Sir,
Hold on a
Mike
second.
has some information, looks like.
So Supervisor Kirk, are you done?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think, I know, okay.
Okay, so I spoke to TUD. It is gone through the NEPA process. It is shovel ready. It does serve 90% of the county because Groveland has its own thing going on or whatever, and some other stuff. So I don't know. I mean, by the time we add Jupiter and everywhere else in, we might be close to that number. And I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think the federal government would look at the fact that 90% of the water is getting cut off to the county. That maybe that isn't an important thing to put money behind. That we should try it either way. So.
It does not meet the requirement. You only have a few areas in the county that do. When you're hitting a 95% component, then you are under that. And you are less than 51%, so it would not qualify.
Is there any exception to that, just because of what it would serve? Or the need
No,
of
it is a federal requirement. There are, did you have a state of emergency or
Yeah.
federal declaration related to this?
Yes, we did have a local state of emergency.
We're still in a local state of emergency. And I think the question is, if the full board was behind it, couldn't we just come up to Sacramento and have a conversation with whoever's approving these grants? Because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to do something that's, not a little project. It's literally, if we cut off any community's water supply in any other jurisdiction, it would be a state of emergency as well. So it's just an opportunity to do something different and think outside the box and not get stuck in this idea that, well, it doesn't meet a certain box, so we're not going to consider it. I think that's what we're asking is, could we just talk with the folks who are going to approve these projects and see if we can't just get a conversation with them?
We could definitely set up a conversation, based on the regulations and the requirements. It doesn't check the box, but you're always welcome to have a conversation.
And to be fair, these are projects that are shovel ready right now. And again, we
It's
have to
shovel ready right now.
I understand, but we have to have the paperwork submitted, ready to go by April 2nd. So
We could get that.
I'm not saying we can't. I'm just bringing us back to
Can I
target.
just highlight, this is for 300,000, correct?
No, for the 3 million.
Oh, the CV, okay.
Yeah, that was, thank you. With that, you have comments, Supervisor Brandon?
Great, thank you. Yeah, so my main question, Lori, I wanted to ask, we had voted and wanted to support, or had at least extensive discussion, I think indicated support, when it came to the Prayer House plan. As mentioned, we have invested money in the architectural analysis, and Supervisor Holland and I had a meeting where we were talking about that, but that was about exactly a year ago or so. So why would we not, again, I didn't quite understand the reasoning why we were not applying for that specifically $3 million grant to this existing project.
Existing project of the fire station or
Correct.
which project?
We had invested a small amount into the architectural study. The next step was to get the basically house and engine bays open. We had a discussion about could we lower the cost? The tariffs were coming in, making it a little hard for some of the materials. We talked about a portable. All to say the idea was $3 million to actually get the station up and running. As you're aware, that station is running, but it's running out of Columbia College on somewhat of a borrowed lease. And I think Roger may have some additional info there. It got some CDBG, but it was a small amount for architectural study. The goal was to get the CDBG funding for the actual renovation and operation of the station, which we currently operate and pay for.
Yeah, I'm looking, I was searching back because for previous meetings, I believe this board gave us direction in either April or May of last year not to continue with that application.
No, but here was the issue. And I think I know what you're referencing, but the issue was we brought it before the board. We had discussion about what it would be. Supervisor Holland and I had a meeting, and I don't want to speak for you if anything was that, but it was talking about what would be shovel ready. The issue was that was when the grant stuff or the audit stuff was being presented. And so the realization was we were not in a position to make a CDBG application because it wouldn't have been successful because our audits were not in. It was not saying we no longer want to do the fire station.
Actually, I think it was very specific that we didn't want to move forward with the fire station.
And
We will go back and verify, but I am
Yeah.
pretty confident that it was very specific that we were not going to move forward with that fire station.
I very much disagree. I believe there was one comment where it was talking about long-term at the air attack base, there may be plans to have a station, but there was not a vote at that. I don't think there was any direction whatsoever, and we've already invested in it. And this is the issue. So I'm wondering why this is not kind of coming back or we have that confirmed, because this has been in our priorities for a while. This is a station that's part of our CAL FIRE contract. We had invested money in a standing architectural study to be able to be eligible for this exact grant. Right?
Yes, and I believe, and we will verify, but I am confident that this board gave me direction not to pursue that grant.
Can we,
for that building.
can we weigh in? Because this is very important, I think, for my viewing of like what any alternatives to this, because that was a shovel-ready project at that time. It was just the audits. I certainly was not in support of that and was not aware that that was a clear discussion as one of the 5 members of the board. Was there anybody proposing that we do not do a Columbia Fire Station?
Actually, on April 25th,
Mhm.
when we had this discussion, I believe Supervisor, I'm going off my notes here, Supervisor Holland brought forward a slideshow of that building, of that facility.
Mhm.
And I concur with CIO Root that we chose not to move forward on moving forward on that building. The 5 of us decided not to move forward on that building.
The 5 of us did not decide that.
Well, you may have decided to move forward, but we as an organization decided not to move forward.
Well, you can imagine I would probably be paying attention to whether we did that or not. There was discussion about the air attack.
Mhm.
All to say is,
Right, and that was on 4/20.
going back to the root issue, if we're not applying on that building, let's say that's the choice. We do have an active CAL FIRE contract for a station there. It is currently at Columbia College, which is not a permanent location.
Right, but it's not shovel ready. I hear exactly what you're saying. I agree with you that if we want to bring that back to the table, we can. But what we are having this discussion right here, right now, is what are we going to submit by April 3rd?
Let me ask that then. Is it, Lori, from the previous CDBG, I believe you were presenting on that, is that a shovel-ready project? My understanding was at that meeting, we were going to submit it?
The project is, or was shovel ready at that time, but since then, the demographics have changed in that community, and an income survey is required. That income survey did not move forward after the board discussion, because I do not want to charge you for something that you're not going to make application for. So we have put that on pause until you have given different direction.
Does that income survey expire every single year? Is it only
It's not-
valid for 1 year?
It's only valid for 5 years.
Okay.
So you don't want to do it and then, shorten that time at the end.
When was that income survey done for that project?
Has not been completed. We've had it approved through the state. And then once I have direction, then I will move forward and start it again. But we have not conducted the survey yet.
Sorry, not to belabor this. You said it was shovel ready, which means that the income survey was done to be shovel ready, right? And you said it lasts 5 years.
No, the shovel ready component is related to the design and the NEPA.
Okay.
I think we needed FFA approval too. That was the other thing.
Have what?
We had to get FFA approval because technically they control that property.
Yeah, there
I think
were.
that was the other thing on that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll leave it at that. Is I certainly don't think we should be moving to something that is not under our agency shovel ready over this thing that we've been proposing for a while. I'm pretty disappointed that income survey, to my knowledge, was done. At least what I had thought, that we had an application ready to submit, that it didn't require the income survey to still be pending. I wanted to ask for one more thing. This is specific to the CV funds. Is that correct for the 3 million? Is that right, Lori? Or what's the specific CDBG for the 3 million?
It's the 3 million is a part of the competitive component for this round in 2025.
Okay. And are we discussing anything from the, where did the 300,000 come from? Was that related to the program income or which component?
No, it's total of 3.6 million that's available. And you have the component that we were discussing was related to the programs that were previously requested to be funded, which is the food bank and the transportation program. And we're down to just the food bank being one of the previous projects that we would like to move forward with based on their previous commitment to submit, and we weren't able to submit. So we wanted to bring that one forward and submit under this program, and then consider the other projects and programs that have been suggested or that the board would like to direct for the application.
Okay, so the last question then, I guess, because I heard the 300,000, the food bank. I know that that is an ongoing allocation we do that supports it. We didn't have it. It's been a huge issue. But we're saying 3.6 million, said food bank transportation. We're no longer doing transportation, just food bank. The food bank needs funding, CDBG funding over time. It doesn't, to my knowledge, need 3.6 upfront. So then what are the proposed recommendations for that $3 million larger grant? I'm sorry if I'm getting kind of tied up here. If you have any,
No, I appreciate your questioning, but
Right.
I believe what's before us is the only thing that's currently, excuse me, before us is the food bank.
is giving the food bank
the
3.5 million.
No, it's giving 300,000, is what she said.
Right, but we just said 3 point, that's what I'm getting confused, is the 3.6
I think,
million.
right, because that was what we originally started with.
Mhm.
That was what the available funds were. Through the discussions that the board had, the only one that is left viable, ready to submit right now, according to Ms. Adams, would be the food bank. So I think what's before us is decide, do we wish to move forward with the 300,000 for the food bank? And then wait until the next fund schedule to come forward so we can start addressing like the prayer house and things like that.
Right. So we're not applying, so 3.6 million, we're applying for 300,000 for the food bank as the one eligible shovel-ready project, which means 3.3 million we are not applying for. I'm assuming because we can do the 300, it means our audits are adequate to then apply for CDBG in general. So then my question is, why are we not applying for the 3.3? Why are we not anticipating that for our ongoing capital projects, whatever they could be? We have a number of shovel-ready projects in the county. Roger?
We don't have shovel-ready projects that meet all the requirements for this grant. The only, actually, we have none. The per house, if the income study had been done would be the only project
Right.
that we have currently.
Well, and that's the question. So who dropped the ball on this? Because before we couldn't apply because of the audits, and I understood exactly why that was. We're now applying because it seems our audits are in a condition where we can. So why don't we have eligible shovel-ready projects? 'Cause it sounds like we're saying because we have no projects, we're not applying for 3.3 million right now, that nobody was getting a shovel-ready project, either the Pereira House or it could have been our transportation with Public Works, it could have been with Jamestown Sanitary District.
So, and I share this perspective. It's one of the things that I think is lending to some of the confusion here is that if you look at our agenda, there's no accompanying documentation.
Right.
We've had conversations about this, and my understanding was that what we would have presented to us today was a list of viable projects.
Yes, and that's what you're getting is a list of viable projects.
Then that we would go through that list and allocate the funds. But what it sounds like is that the only viable project is the food bank. This stuff, that's the first I'm hearing of it. And there was no way for me to know or do anything about it until right now.
Well,
And not to put words in Supervisor Brandon's mouth, but that's the frustration I'm feeling, and I think that's what I'm hearing from my colleague.
I believe in January, I came to this board, letting the board know that we'd be having these public meetings, which were not attended by any of the board members. And that was an opportunity for.
Those meetings were not for us to attend. They were
Right.
for the public.
Those are public
To
meetings.
take feedback from the public about what projects they
on.
wanted, and then bring that to the board to see what the community was asking for, and then we talk about it. Those were not for us to attend.
In January, I came to the board with requesting direction from the board to have those public meetings, knowing that we had an application and that we would be back here at this date to approve a list. The submissions that came in did not qualify. The list that is available is one item. That is it.
What submissions came in? I haven't seen.
We
a
worked
list.
with
I have no-
Jamestown Sanitary to look at the projects that they had. They were not shovel ready.
Well, okay,
We
you're telling me
solicited.
this, but why was this never brought to the board as an explanation that these weren't viable projects? That was what I was expecting.
Supervisor, to be fair, I don't believe it's the CAO's position to bring before the board projects that don't fall with under our purview. Point 1.2, they're either complete, ready to go, or they're not. I think what he's trying to say is that the only thing that was submitted, which is viable and ready to go, is the ACA food bank.
Lori did
Yeah,
speak
which-
to the ones that, such as sanitary at the beginning of the presentation. She spoke to a whole bunch that were presented that weren't.
I say this,
Right, I understand
this
that,
was
but
a
that's not
public,
the issue.
this was a public forum to receive public feedback on ideas, and we do this regularly.
No,
They're
it is not.
very,
That is not this forum right now. Right now, what's before us right now.
no, I'm
is-
sorry. No, not this. You're right.
Right, so this topic right now is discussion and direction on projects for the CDBG grant
Yes, Chair.
cycle.
I'm referring to the
That's what we're
CEO's
talking
point about the January meeting.
Right.
We often have those. We solicit public opinion. They're not often, it's not an RFP. It's not a proposal.
Correct.
People come in with ideas and feedback. It's really not for us to do a brainstorming session. It is for public feedback. The point that I'm getting to with it, and I think we're saying the same thing, that is the discussion today. Supervisor Campbell's correct. We didn't have a list of projects in the agenda. I assumed we'd have a list of projects here. We don't rely on the public to send everything. We also have our own internal capital plans, programs, maybe partner agencies. We sometimes apply for partner agencies in a public benefit that the administrative office or Lori or whoever would bring forward those projects. We do not have those projects here today. And so why do we not have those projects being
He
developed
told you. He
in-house?
said that there was no projects ready to go right now.
Right, but why not? There are projects ongoing. It's just whether they're shovel ready. If we're
Right.
basically saying we have no
He's the
project to apply
CAO.
for $3 million.
He's the one who's gonna come before the board and say, this is what I got. I'm ready to go. If there's no list ready to go, it's because either there's no projects in the hopper ready to go, or they don't meet to tick the boxes. I don't understand why we're grilling our own CIO over this. Right? He said, the only thing that's before us right now is the ATCA food bank.
But you
That's-
understand there's 3.6 million we could apply. We are
Right, that- just
debating
because we-
to apply for 300,000, which means we are opting, because we don't have that project, to lose 3 million. Even though now our audits are in, right? That's where my frustration
Right,
is.
well, I mean, I get that we're leaving $3.3 million on the table.
On the table.
Perhaps, right? That doesn't mean we were A, gonna get them, or B, that they were going to be eligible. What's before us now is the ACA Food Bank. It's the 300. I agree that leaving $3.3 million on the table is a lot of money. I
Right.
get it.
Well, and that's sort
right?
of frustrating. You know, for example, we did a revolving loan fund in Jamestown a long time ago. It was for mixed use architectural stuff. It helps small business. A revolving loan fund for a housing recovery project in a disaster area would be great, or a water system. We have talked about those things.
But they're not ready to go. The CAO has brought
Right.
before us the list that is ready to go for this upcoming cycle.
Can we agree the list kind of feels deficient?
I can agree that the CAO did his job and that the CAO brought forward what he thought was what ticks all the boxes. It's not our job. It's not our job to tell him what to do to agree. Go out there and find projects. Either they're ready to go or they're not. We have a timeline, right? We have to have this submitted within a certain deadline.
Sure.
And if we want to draw that out, then you're going to lose the 300,000.
No, and specific, we do have
can I ask a
these
quick-
within Public
I
Works. We have
apologize.
a project plan. We have ones within OES. We've actually reviewed some things about generators and stuff just here that could be eligible for it. Oh, I'm just saying that we have a number of projects that are being worked on.
Mhm.
To bring them shovel ready for this grant is not an insane lift. It feels like nobody did any work to make them shovel ready to bring them forward. I'm not saying it's the CAO's fault. I'm
yes.
asking whose responsibility was it to bring forward projects?
And for a little bit of context, we did have a general services office, which was decimated. Most of the people that worked in that office are gone now. Those were the people who administered CDBG. I mean, that is really, if you want to get down to it, that is part of the reason why there's this confusion here and why things were done differently in the past and they're not being done now.
And the audits were a huge issue, but I think every year before that, we applied for CDBG.
Right.
We have about a 90% rate of getting them, to my knowledge. So we do this very routinely. This isn't one of those grants that come down and we occasionally get.
So
right?
yes, and this is an essential fund that funds a lot of extra things in our community that we wouldn't necessarily be able to afford just with property taxes, sales taxes, and TOT alone. My confusion or the question I want is if let's just use the Jamestown sanitary project as an example. If that is not shovel ready in the context of applying for this, and maybe we're asking too much of Roger here. I'd like to bring Lori in. If that is not shovel ready and not a viable CDBG project, what would it have taken to get that to that level? And when was the cutoff point where we could have done that work? And I'm just, you pick whichever project you, because, and just generally, I would like to know what our community has been asking for in these workshops, you know, whether it was, obviously, if people go to these workshops and they say we should use CDBG to build a water slide, you know, that's not a good use of that funding. But are they asking for fire stations? Are they asking for community halls? Are they asking for generators for facilities? I don't know. I haven't seen any of that information. So where is that, and how do I?
Yes, we can provide the minutes to you for those meetings that outline the projects that were discussed. The Jamestown Sanitary District upgrades that we had talked about and the force main project, we vetted those projects and the NEPAs had not been started. That's approximately, that can take up to 6 months to do a NEPA.
Yeah.
They had their CEQA completed, but not the NEPA component, which a lot of communities do forget that component because they don't contemplate federal funds until they hear about, you know, these programs being available. So that project for Jamestown, if they were to pick one, or if you were to pick one to support, then we would be ready by the next cycle of funding, which will be an infrastructure only application. And the next cycle will also be a $5 million cycle. So those, pick a project to fund, then that would be what would be required. But the challenge with Tuolumne County is not every area is eligible for funding. So we have to be very careful about the projects that we do consider. So even though we may have projects that come forward, they most likely won't check the box in order to be eligible for the funding, just like we had the conversation with TUD's project.
Can I chime in?
Yeah, Supervisor Holling.
So I don't think we should pick on Roger about this. I mean, we did get the board packet. Some of this falls on us. I reached out to Roger because I agree with you. There was nothing attached, anything at all. of like, well, what's on this list? Roger basically told me we got maybe 2 projects, one being the food bank, which I think we're all in agreement on. I don't think there's gonna be any no votes on that. And that we could probably do the school resource officer in this short period of time. So I think some of this falls on us. So then I call Supervisor Kurt and say, hey, we just watched this whole presentation about the flume, the fact that all of us are, not flushing the toilet as much right now. What if we do something with that? Because they had said they had applied for grants in the past and they got denied and they were ready to go. And I asked me if I'd call TUD, which is what we did. And they said, we'd love it if you guys put us in there. Right. I mean, it'd be very helpful because I think it's something that touches every one of our districts except for whatever that place is, Groveland, right? The lower part of your district it touches. So it'd be good for all of us. So I don't think we thought about the income component in that conversation. But I mean, some of this falls on us that, we had the packet, we could pick up the phone and call our CO and ask him questions. That's what I did of like, well, yeah, and I agree, it was thin. There wasn't anything in there, but I don't need him to bring me a list of denied projects. I don't got time for that. But I understand your guys' point to that, but I don't think we should dump on him over this because, someone's picked up a phone and did something. And so, and if we can't get TUD, that's fine. But it sounds like to me, we have 2 projects we could possibly pull off for 600,000. If I heard the math right, was 300 to the food bank and maybe 300 to help with the school resource officer for school resource officers, not officer, officers. And different schools would comply because many of them have free and reduced lunch programs. It's probably a percentage, I would imagine, is how they would apply it or something like that. But most of our elementary schools in this county have Title I programs. They get Title I funds to serve that population. So we could use up 600,000, you're right. We wouldn't get the 3 million, but also I believe if we don't get that 3 million, the next year we'd actually get more bonus points for application, right? If we don't get funded the year before.
I know it's 5 years now.
Oh, well, so much for that idea. So thank you. Anyways, that's just my thing. But
Could I just provide a little bit more clarity on what actually took place that I think is a little different than what you've experienced in the past? When this application, we weren't expecting this to be available when it was available. So when Lori spoke with me in December and said, hey, we have this opportunity, we were tracking pretty well with the audits. So I felt strongly that we should pursue it. That's why we came to the board in January. The meetings were all very well attended, as you heard. And from my understanding, attended much better than previous meetings had been attended. I had my office reach out to all the community service districts and all of those kind of agencies within the county that might have a project that they would want to bring and meet, which is part of the reason why some of those districts attended those meetings. And we reached out to numerous agencies just trying to get participation, and we got more people participating, I think, because of that outreach. We just did not have shovel-ready projects that were already in, that were just sitting on the shelf waiting, because at the time, I did not anticipate we were going to be able to even apply for this grant. And so we weren't working towards identifying projects that we could pull before January. We weren't working towards designing projects or anything of that nature. We weren't working on any income studies before January because we didn't think we were going to be applying for it. Now we're in a better place today, but I think we did tremendous outreach with these 2 community meetings, more than what typically is done. We had a very personal approach from Heather to those agencies to invite them to attend. And I think that the attendance just showed for itself. We just were not prepared at this time to apply for the application. So those projects just were not available. Now, I asked some questions about school resource officer, and I worked with the undersheriff since that last meeting to get more data from them. Looked at data that we would need for that target audience, and I think we might be able to put something together for that. And I was very much in support of the idea of this reservoir. I think it's something that's, as a resident, that is going to could have been impacted heavily by by the issues of the flume. I was very excited to see if this is an opportunity we could push this forward, and it sounded like it was ready. we can still look at that and have those discussions that were discussed further earlier on regarding that project. But there just wasn't enough time, and we just haven't had a focus on preparing for this grant. Moving forward, we'll put a process in place for every year. We know our audits are going to stay up to date because we're pushing pretty hard to make sure that happens. And we'll put a process in place to where we're reviewing these things sooner and preparing earlier in the year.
And Roger, I do believe the audit approval came on Friday night at 9:45 at night, and we're still waiting on one more. So I mean, we're still not quite there yet, but Donnie says we should have it this week or the first couple of days in the next week. So I mean, we're barely there. I mean, Friday night at 9:45 isn't exactly like a lot of lead time here.
So
Right. I was gonna say, unless you have, I mean, I appreciate you wanting to say, but I'd like to hear from the audience unless you're ready to go for something now.
I can wait till after, that's fine.
Okay. So with that being said, I know it's coming up on lunchtime. As you notice on your board packet, it says the board will recess between 12 and 1. We're going to aim for kind of a 12:30-ish. So with that being said, come on up if you wish to speak on this item. You have 3 minutes to do such. Thank you for waiting patiently.
Absolutely. Thank you. Joe Boers, Executive Director of ATCA. I just wanted to help clarify a couple of things because I can tell that there's a little bit of confusion here. So Lori, I'm just going to make a couple of statements here and then let me know if what I said is accurate or not, or elaborate on it. The $3.6 million can only be broken up with a combination of a $3 million infrastructure project and up to two $300,000 maximum service contracts. So that's how that breaks down. I also wanted to make the board and the public aware, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lori, but the federal administration mandated in, I think it was December, it was right around Christmas, that 2025 CDBG will be the last year for 2 more years. So 2026 CDBG, 2027 CDBG will not allow for service contracts. So those $300,000 service programs will not be allowed for 2 more years after this. But the infrastructure programs will be available every one of those years. In fact, the emphasis by the administration is to focus on infrastructure projects. And we're way out of cycle here with this extension that we got, thank goodness, or we wouldn't be applying for anything for 2025. I believe that the cycle is that if you don't get in your infrastructure program for this extended 2025 CDBG, the 2026 is probably going to come out, and I'm just guessing, later this year, like in the fall. So you may only miss about 6 months here, not an entire year of submitting for an infrastructure program. The last thing is, and I don't know whether this would qualify or not, Lori, but the navigation center here is an ongoing operation, service project, or could be. If there were any needs of additional funding, I would believe that they could fill out an application and get it in by April 2nd. But I don't know if it would qualify. So that's basically a transitional program for people between emergency shelters and permanent housing that the county operates. So I just wanted to throw that out there. If you didn't get the other 300,000 for the officers, the school officers, that might be another thought. But thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment?
I was going to say good morning, but it's too late for that. My name's Diane Bennett, and I'm the Executive Director of Interfaith. Am I echoing? Looked like to me. Also, just for transparency, I happen to be on the board of APTA, but I'm not officially representing them. And I'm very happy to hear what seems to be a willingness to go ahead and support the food bank, because that is so vital to the food pantries in this county. like Interfaith. We are the major service provider for that right now, and our numbers have been going up, and it's working families. Yes, it's working families, it's senior citizens. We're seeing many more people with younger families with children and even larger households. And though we will be probably running at a bit of a deficit in points because we've applied before, this is so vital to keep the entire church and other pantry system running. And yes, we are preparing for knowing this may not be available in the future, but like I tell you, we get between 9,000 and 10,000 pounds of food a month through the ATCA food bank. Go buy that food to serve people. We cannot do that. And the good thing is it's food that people can actually make meals out of. We're talking produce and vegetables and cheese and meats that we can send people out feeding their family. As a mother said, I don't have to worry about my kids' meals this week. Or the person who last week they had lost their food and the power outages. People lost food and the paychecks weren't coming in yet, and they're month to month, paycheck to paycheck. And they just needed some food to get them until they got that paycheck. So this is so important to the community health and the community total well-being. And please go ahead and include the food bank. And I thank you for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Miko Daniels. I'm the Food Bank Director for ATCA. And I just want to let you know that approving go ahead with the CDBG is going to really be extremely helpful. Right now, we have a grant that covers California food, food sourced in California, but to be well-rounded meals and nutritious foods, it is a huge cost. Interfaith alone gets 6 to 8 pallets from us every time they get food. That's just one of our many pantries and sites that we distribute food. And right now, I believe this last month we served over almost 7,000 individuals in this county alone. This is just going up, as she said. The numbers go up every month. So I just wanted to let you know that it's kind of scary that we're not going to have CDBG over the next 2 years offered to us, but it is huge that we get it this time. It's imperative. So I just want to let you know how much I appreciate your support on that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Mark Brooks, candidate for District 2. I'd recommend that we give priority to these amazing folks over here. We need to make sure we have at least 2 years worth of funding for interfaith to make sure our people are not starving. We have wildfire season coming up. We don't know how many people are going to be homeless this summer, so I think that's a big priority. As far as our great CAO over here, I'd appreciate it if you guys would respect our employees and not treat them like you have. You need to take personal responsibility for your decisions. You need to take personal responsibility for being gone on your campaign all the time. You need to take personal responsibility for not putting anything on the agenda last year. So stop blaming everything on Roger Root. He works 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. I'd like to see any of you do that for this county. Thank you.
Come on up. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Gobsmacked. I mean, I am just like, I don't know what to say. I've been operating for not since last April, unfortunately. I wish I had been. I wish I had been aware of that meeting. And I will go back and I will watch the complete video archive if I can. But I've been operating for at least the last 9 months on the premise that the Pereira house was completely shovel ready. And I've gone out and I've got community support. I've come to meetings. I've sent numerous emails. I've been in front of you, I don't know how many times, at least a handful. And shovel ready has come out of my mouth. And now to find out that an income survey, which is good for 5 years, for some reason, is not applying to this project and making it ineligible, I'm outraged. I mean, that's $3 million left on the table. That's a fire station. That's the safety of our community. I don't know who's to blame, and I'm not blaming anyone, but we'll have to get to the bottom of it. You know, it could be a combination of factors. Like I say, I don't place blame unless I know absolutely it belongs. And I know, you know, there's been an upheaval last year in employees. I know the audits weren't done. I don't have answers. This absolutely, all I can say is unacceptable. I mean, I could read the email I sent yesterday. How much time do I have? $300,000 of Tuolumne public funds, and Roger Root told me at the community meeting it was public funds, not grant funds, because I specifically asked that question. Now, that's unclear apparently, but $300,000 were spent to prepare the Pereira House project for this upcoming CDBG application to make it shovel ready. And now I'm hearing it's not. And now I'm hearing it's an income survey. And now on the 11th hour of the submission, when we had apparently a year to figure this out, you know, here we are, $3 million. So every meeting I attend or watch and, you know, public funds come up and you're trying to find money to open Monte Vista, you're trying to find money for the plume. Can you honestly deal with those issues knowing you left $3 million on the table? And let me just talk, because the last meeting you discussed that you could not use the storm damage block grants for leased buildings. What's the reservoir? What's the plume canal, whatever you want to call it? It's owned by PG&E. It is leased.
All right, ma'am. Sorry.
Thank you.
I just feel like the woulda, coulda, shoulda discussion is a moot point. It's like we don't have projects to vote on, so you know we're just wasting time. If those projects were here, sure, we could have that discussion. But this discussion for what we're talking about right now is only what it is. It's only what we have presented to us, and so I feel like the rest of this stuff, yeah, next time, fine, figure it out behind closed doors. But we're in a meeting right now. We want to get out of here. So unless there's something that is shovel ready and ready to go, then there's really no discussion. And so if this reservoir project could somehow have an exception made for it, great. Maybe we can look into that. If that gets done in time, awesome. That's great infrastructure project. Everybody wants it. Otherwise, let's just get on with it, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I will note that the speaker's time did not count down on the last one. Okay. It wasn't, but just in case the next one was over 3 minutes.
Well, I think I'm pretty good at what
I know.
3 minutes is. I just want to clarify some misinformation. We do not lease the flume. TUD operates things, but we do not pay for any of the water or the maintenance or the storage of water that comes to us through PG&E. The Sierra Reservoir is a project with the Twinehart Community Services District. And then I recall the discussion over the income survey, and Mo Frank was still here. And the prevailing thought, and they had done some preliminary, I don't know if they got it through the school or whatever, was that if they did the income survey at that time, it would show that the demographics in Columbia had changed and their income was higher, and Columbia would not qualify anymore as a disadvantaged low-income community. Maybe by just, excuse me, a smidgen, but that they would lose that thought of them being a disadvantaged low-income community, and they were hesitant to proceed and prove that to be true. So unless they actually needed that income survey, they were hoping to kind of wait and see if this was a temporary change or it would be a more permanent change. That's what I recall the discussion back in 2024.
All right, thank you. Any other public comments? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. So we're gonna have to take a lunch here at 12:30, regardless of where we are in this process. So I would encourage my colleagues to consider time management. I will start with Supervisor Brandon.
Great, thank you. We'll leave this at the fire thing, that it's been brought up at every meeting, pretty much since we got the grant to establish that station. It's in our board goals to be pursuing grant funding to support it. That's why we got money to go put into the architectural study. We did not do a formal vote to get rid of it. There was not an alternative project that was used to replace it. It was advocated at that public forum and in every meeting since. We signed a CAL FIRE contract, which is paying for that station. We are temporarily leasing and on an extended lease at Columbia College that will end. And these surveys run for 5 years. And when it was presented to the board, the audit shut it down, but it was said to be shovel ready. So all to say that the expectation that yes, this would be the project we apply for when our audits got correct makes a lot of sense. And it's frustrating that if that is the one thing holding us up getting $3 million, when we're closing a fire station that we apparently can't pay for, that's frustrating. I wanted to highlight a few things here. We mentioned what would be a shovel-ready project. I was going through some that I imagine should have been submitted from our various departments. We have, for example, the opioid-funded veterans home that we're trying to make out of the dialysis clinic. We have floor plans, some funding there. Maybe it's not fully 3 million, but some work has been in. We have a lot of projects in low-income communities under or MSA. Several projects that are all well studied, NEPA approved. We're waiting on funding and project managers. The Sierra Jobs First initiative. We've had a number of road projects. Of course, our road plans are on an ongoing basis. Broadband. We also did a programmatic CEQA for broadband. We identified low-income communities and areas that they did not have. Other areas have used broadband revolving loan funds from CDBG. We have the courthouse. Historic preservation is sometimes a cost that is using. We've had to do a lot of CEQA analysis on the courthouse. We've talked about the HVAC there. There's the Jamestown Safe Routes to Schools. I'm bringing all these up in case there may be something we can apply for. That is something working with Civic Well, talking about parking and active transportation and pedestrian safety in front of the school there. I've been at those meetings. It's been an ongoing process for several years. We have Visionary Homes and the East Sonora Housing Project, both of which were nonprofit housing projects with fully approved by the county, I believe. All of the CEQA and everything done for that. We had the proposal for the Columbia Armory Resilience Center that was over there as well. We've had the issue related to the Columbia Elementary School pool, which has had extensive look into it. We also have all the projects on our board priorities, capital plan, our county economic development strategy for the region. There is the Jamestown Fire Housing we just funded. That is something that would have been eligible, I believe, for this. And not to mention, of course, Chinese Camp, which is certainly a low-income disaster. And if we're going to make an exception for anything, to me, that is where we have a lot of uninsured folks. If it came up, hey, the fire station this year, maybe next year, but right now we need a revolving loan fund for construction materials, I could even consider opting into something like that. So with some of those, as mentioned, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, April 2nd is the drop dead submission deadline. Is that correct? Right? Just checking, March 3rd today. We're saying about going down to Sacramento and doing all this stuff. An income survey seems like something that could be done on a short-term basis for a project that is otherwise shovel-ready. Many of these things suggest to me they are shovel-ready. I would have loved to have a more comprehensive, let's look at 10 options, which I thought we would, that were in our existing priorities. But can we look at one of these things? And I'm not trying to be difficult on this. I think the issue, and it's not trying to throw anybody under the bus, we are leaving, as we said, $3 million on the table, and we have a lot of expensive things. CDBG is one of those things that allows us to get ahead because our revenues don't cover these costs. Sometimes you get your project, sometimes you don't get your project. That's the way of the board. But to not apply for that money, the food bank, not controversial to me. Absolutely, we should support that. For the other 3 million, I don't think any of us on here should be okay with saying, well, I guess we're too late. We should all be somewhat frustrated with it. And I can say for my project, well, sure, maybe I should have sent that email, attended that town hall. I viewed it differently because it's been very consistent. We all probably have projects in our district too that we would love to advocate. The idea that 3 million was sitting there and none of us thought, hey, there's a low income eligible project of any type of infrastructure that I would like to ask us to apply for, suggests to me not an individual problem, but a process problem. I had expectation that we would have options presented, and I've been clear with the option that I've wanted to see come back. So I appreciate the time. I listed a few. I know that was very fast. Those to me seem like they could be very quickly shovel-ready projects. And I would love to have any feedback from Lori or Roger if any of those, all of which again are not ideas, they are things we're actively doing. We've done environmental review, we have plans for, and have been approved at some level.
Well, some of those I can say that it's not just that, it's the location of those things. And so there's pockets of the county that do not qualify because of the income. And so some of those locations, now I did look at trying to figure out a way to look at some funding for reconstruction in a Chinese camp. But as you heard, we're just now clearing properties out there. So there was no way we were gonna be able to get everything we needed for that. I do think that's something that we can look at for a future project. I also spoke with utility districts about getting water service in there and trying to get, again, a project that we couldn't get ready in that kind of time. I looked at the Jamestown school project with the crosswalks in the roads and a walking path. And yes, they did everything, but the NEPA's not done on that project yet. And so there's a few things that I think we can do on future applications that just we were not able to get ready for this one. However, I do think that you're absolutely right. This is a process problem because we were not planning on applying for this. And I mentioned that we will put a process in place to where we're working on this throughout the year, have someone more dedicated to the project, to this initiative. And I think Supervisor, you said this earlier, it's one of the 12 hats that I wear throughout the day. And so if I had more time to dedicate to this, we may have spent more time working on it, but I think we did a pretty good job of outreach. And I think that one thing we didn't do is we didn't outreach internally to staff. And that will be something that we definitely will correct because there may be some internal projects that we didn't.
Can I ask a clarifying question that's really relevant? You're saying NEPA. We can have CEQA only because it goes above and beyond the minimum requirements of NEPA. Is that correct? So if something is CEQA qualified, it is automatically a NEQA qualified project because that is the federal minimum. We cannot have environmental standards below NEPA.
Lori.
Incorrect. We have a
Okay.
HUD regulation we are required to meet as according to NEPA, which means a HUD approved environmental assessment has to be completed in addition to CEQA. CEQA is a California rule, NEPA is the federal rule, and we have to do both on these projects. Can a CEQA be used to complete the NEPA? Yes, but we are required to meet the HUD requirement of NEPA.
Okay. And maybe one last thing onto this. You mentioned it has to be NEPA or CEQA qualified, say a revolving loan fund. That in and of itself has no impact. And it can serve, it doesn't just have to be in a low income area. It can be to a low income population. So why wouldn't we just put in an application to say we would like $3 million for a revolving loan fund for low income residents facing disaster reconstruction? There is no CEQA or NEPA issue there, right? Because that would be project eligible. They'd have to prove that. Creating a loan fund, which we've done in the past, I think 15 years ago, that would be something that seems to make sense to me.
I absolutely think it would be something that makes sense.
That with a month, we could shoot our shot, right?
No, let me explain the complications. You are oversimplifying the process of CDBG. I'm sorry to state that, but it is not that simple. Those types of programs require that you have capacity, that you have people in place to implement those programs, that you have guidelines established, that you can show that you have operated those programs in the past. There's a lot of documentation, and not only do you have all of those items, but then you also have the NEPA component. Yes, there is a NEPA component. Each home that will be touched will have a NEPA, which is called a tiered NEPA. So you have to do the first level of NEPA. And then once your program is approved and each home is touched, then you do the secondary part of NEPA. So there's a lot of work that goes into putting all of those documents together. And then we have to work with the person who's going to be doing that implementation in order to complete the application. And doing that in 30 days, I don't have the capacity.
Okay. I appreciate that.
We do.
I think we need to
we-
direct this back to find something to get the 3 million.
Communicate. Yeah.
All right.
At this point, it's very difficult to do. I understand that that is something that you wish to do. Again, Roger stated, we didn't anticipate application, so we brought this forth as soon as we knew that you were going to be able to apply and those audits were going to be in accordance. We didn't want you to miss out on that opportunity to fund some of those key programs that are going to be left out in the next cycle. The next 2 cycles will be infrastructure driven, and it will be up to 5 million. I think today is a great time for us to kick off and looking at what are we going to make application for, because you will be allowed 1 project under each of the next 2 years to apply, make application for, and now's the time to start preparing for that.
2 things. Lori, if our board can get behind the reservoir thing, you sound like a pretty straight shooter. Is there any way possible we could ask the folks who are administering this CBD grant if this is an opportunity? Because I get the income ratio, but water doesn't care about income. It's a necessity in life. So is there a path forward for that? Or is it just an absolutely you're out of your mind type idea?
I think that there is a path forward, but doing it under this application, I think, is going to be an extreme situation because 1, we have to coordinate meetings with the state, which, and that could take us 3 weeks to get into place. So that's where it gets a little bit challenging. My recommendation, and I know CDBG would, not be happy with me, but would be to go from the top down, and you may have to ask your legislative aid to put that meeting into place to get them on board
Okay.
with that type of a project.
Okay.
That may happen a little more quickly than me or Roger trying to reach out to state staff to get that
All right.
meeting.
Lori, we have a meeting tomorrow with that legislative piece, with that senator, with that assemblyman. I get that it may not work because it's tomorrow. So can you get whoever we need to talk to at CBDG, can you get that contact to Roger and we'll see if we can't get them in that meeting tomorrow with our representatives?
Absolutely.
Okay, so hopefully we can have that meeting tomorrow. It's already set up. And if we can get somebody there from that grant, let's rock and roll and do that. Otherwise, we'll work on another meeting. Because like everybody else in this diocese, we don't want to let 3 million go. But I want to be very clear about something you just said, and we need to remind everybody because this is just going. This whole 11th hour thing about the board not being prepared. This literally, we weren't supposed to have access to this grant. We all of a sudden were. We've been trying to do everything we can. We probably knew we may not be able to. It just is what it is. So we need to make lemonade out of lemons. And if we miss it, we miss it. But I think if we can do the flume out of this project, I think that's going to be a huge win for our community. And I think if we can have agreement, unless there was another project, which I'm not hearing, that can be ready to go. The flume literally has that meeting set up tomorrow with all the right people to be in the room. So I think we should try and pivot and get that done. That'd be a huge win for every single one of our districts for water scarcity. So I'll leave it at that.
All right, we have 2 minutes before we're going to lunch. So unless there's additional comments or what have you, I recommend that we take a pause and we'll come back at 1:30.
I have some more comments.
Okay, so how about we come back at 1:30 then?
I don't know if I can do it in 2 minutes, but I can be brief.
Well, here the issue is that it's been brought to my attention that staff and others want us to take lunch. I'm already pushing it a little bit, so.
How long a lunch?
Well, it's on our paperwork says between 12 and 1. We'll take a recess and it's 12:30. I want to give people plenty of
So,
time to getting to go.
12:30 to 1?
What's that?
12:30 to 1 or 12:30 to 1:30?
I would say 1:30. Let people have time to go and grab lunch.
All right, I'll start after 1:30.
Well, you have to, unless there's a motion on the floor to move forward now. I can't see us getting done before.
I'll make a motion to move this forward now and work on getting the reservoir set up as an approval.
Well, no, so, yeah, so.
right, so
I-
1:30 it is.
We either, I think what you're saying is a motion to continue past 1:30 with discussion, right?
Well, I'm saying we will be taking a recess at 12:30
all
here.
right.
We
Well,
will be
that's-
coming back at 1:30. The question is, do we need to? And if not, then we have to have a motion now, which sounds like it's not going to happen. So, 'cause there was no second to yours.
No second?
Oh, wait.
There was a motion.
Yeah, but yours was the flume, right?
Yeah, the reservoir, not the flume, the reservoir.
The reservoir. And I don't think we have enough data to do that at this time.
No, we do. It's shovel ready. Everything's
It-
done. They're ready to.
It is not. You keep
It is
saying,
shovel ready.
all right. Come back.
Hey, trust Holland and I. It's shovel ready.
All right. Well,
NEPA.
trust but
SEQA, all
verify,
that stuff.
right? So
You want to see the document?
not right now. Well, we're gonna cut to
right.
we're gonna cut to lunch. We'll be back at 1:30, everyone. Okay, everyone, we're gonna call the supervisors back to the dais, please. We got 3 out of 4, or 3 out of 4. Math is not my strong suit today.
I'm ready.
3 out of 5.
I'm ready to make a motion. I got an appointment I got to get to, so
I will give the benefit of the doubt that maybe they're on a phone call wrapping things up, so we'll give them 2 minutes. Nope.
there's no.
Nope.
We're adults.
I do want to tell Lori, as she has been patiently waiting, and I do appreciate her patience and her advice and guidance today. We know it went a little bit longer, so I apologize.
Thank you. No worries. I'm here to support the county as I can, and I know how important these funds are.
All right. Okay. All right. So Supervisor Kirk, for the record, I made a little boo-boo. I cut you off. You had started to make a motion, and then we went to lunch. So
Yeah,
did you wish
my-
to?
So, no, I'm going to start out because before he was doing that, I was talking. And so I'd like to finish what I have to say before we get into motions, if that's okay with you. So Supervisor Brandon was able to rattle off a large number of projects just off the top of his head. And I was very impressed with that. And it's funny because I kind of did the same thing and it was different projects. So it's, if we talk about, the Groveland Community Hall or the Jamestown Community Center, these are both projects that are in dire need of public funds. I know that the CDBG money used to go to fund the Meals on Wheels program and the senior center. And so the portion of the funds that we're talking about school resource officer, we're not quite sure if that's applicable. If it's not, there are backups there. Has anybody looked into those things, Lori? Because we did
Yes,
previously.
we did have conversation. Yeah, we did have conversation in regards to the senior center and the Meals on Wheels program, and they are not prepared to participate at this time, as the information that we received back from them.
Okay, and then the senior center?
I believe, is that not the Sierra Seniors program that provides Meals on Wheels?
So we
Is it
have
the same as the senior center?
No, we have the actual senior center facility. They do operate together. Like the senior center will produce the meals and then they'll get sent out with the group that runs Meals
Their
on Wheels.
program. Right. And from what I understood, they were not prepared in general to participate.
Okay, would that be a heavy lift to just, cut and paste from the successful application we've had in the past for Meals on Wheels? I'm just thinking,
No, it's completely different. Our application process has changed multiple times in the past 3 years. So there are some continuity in relation to that. Sorry for the noise, but it's not the same, and the capacities that they have changed. I'm assuming. So I don't know what their deficiencies were. They didn't share that. They just stated that they were not prepared.
okay. And then What about the navigation center? I mean, we have Annie here. Was there ever a conversation there? I forget who, somebody brought it up.
Regards to the homeless services, that is eligible, but that was not one that was brought to our attention.
Okay, I'm throwing out ideas that I think are fairly low hanging fruit that, what I was kind of expecting was to have a conversation of that type where some of these ideas, like I mentioned before you came in, Supervisor, that, you were able to rattle off a list of potential shovel-ready projects or community projects. I have a list. That was exactly where my mind went, too, is I just have projects off the top of my head that I know are sitting out there in need of funding. So that's why it's just kind of hard to take the answer that, we don't have a list of projects. Nobody else was viable, when I know that there are. I mean, one of the other projects was Soulsbyville active transportation at the intersection there. I mean, there's a traffic impact study that was completed, that was paid for, that's done. It's a shovel ready project. That would qualify, it seems to me. I think you mentioned the Columbia Armory was another one. These are all things that are at various points in the process. And again, I'm not the expert. We don't really have a CDBG expert at the county anymore. We depend on you, Lori, for that information. But what is the lift to take one of those projects from being at some point in viability into an actual application?
Well, I think when we came to you in December of this year, we told you that our time was very limited, and that we were wanting to bring forward to you the original projects that were submitted and take those forward because they were ready to go, because we were behind the 8 ball a bit on funding. So we usually work with these programs, very far in advance. And in the past, the process was in place and we utilized, a call for projects. We were, 5 months before the NOFA being released. And unfortunately, we didn't have that timeline in this round. So, and I remember discussing some of these projects with you previously at that last meeting where we had asked for board direction. So at this point in the game, 30 days out, we don't have a lot of time to take something and just throw it into the mix because we want to utilize the funds. And that is, something I do need to caution you on. Doing that does put us in a situation where we may not be competitive, or we may miss some, strategic processes that we usually work with these organizations on leading up to applications. So we are kind of beyond that point. So we really need to kind of focus in on the programmatic side. Putting a project in at this time is pretty difficult because we have to go back and review the cost estimates. We have to add information into those cost estimates because of some of the HUD and federal requirements that get placed on a project. So it will add cost to the project as well, which could then potentially throw you out of being able to meet those budget requirements. So there's quite a bit of conversation that happens before we even bring a project forward to you after it has been vetted. So the timeline that you're asking to hit, which is less than 30 days now, is pretty steep.
Well,
for these kinds of discussions.
And I just hear, talk about, building dams and flumes and those kind of things that the county doesn't typically do. I'm just trying to point toward the low hanging fruit. If I got a message from somebody in our fire department about Station 51 Mono Village, which is our main fire station that needs, siding, roof repairs, those types of things. I don't know. It just seems like there's got to be some way we can not leave this money on the table. It just doesn't seem like making repairs to a fire station or making repairs to the armory is that far outside the scope of things we've done in the past.
Right. So then I would need somebody to provide me plans and specifications, and I know it's just siding, et cetera, but there still are requirements for a public bid process that have to be completed when you go out to bid for these types of projects. We have to have the plans and specifications. We have to have the contract documents with all of the federal language in it. We would require the NEPA process. When you're dealing with an exterior of a building, if it's 50 years old or older, then we have SHPO compliance.
Does-
So, it just layers on,
Does
right?
NEPA applies for public buildings like firehouses?
Yes, absolutely. Any type of construction requires NEPA. I mean, everything that we do with the CDBG program requires NEPA. Now, whether it converts to exempt or not is a process that we have to go through. There's like 19 categories that we have to review. And that takes time, and it takes someone that we need to contract with to do that. Either your office and the planning department has somebody to do the NEPA, or we have to hire out to have that NEPA completed. If it's a program, then we can do that, no problem. When it's a construction or a construction type project, then you get into toxic programs, endangered species. I mean, I can go down that rabbit hole, but there's a lot of things that have to go on in order to make that be eligible. And this is competitive. They're only going to fund maybe 8 projects. So, every point counts. And when we're rushing in less than 30 days to throw something together, I cannot confidently say that I'm going to be able to put an application together that's going to get you all the points necessary.
Well, I think it's just, I think the communication wasn't there, and I agree with you. I wish that we weren't in a situation where it's rushed, but, the only part of this that I was involved with beforehand was the food bank. I'm the chair of the Amador Tuolumne Action Agency. That was something that I was, myself, Supervisor Brandon, were bringing forward and making sure it got done. And just seems like none of these other things had any attention. So I guess maybe
it's not that.
Yeah. And I'm not,
It
I'm not,
definitely had a
if
we
it sounds like
we
I'm
were
blaming you, I'm
expecting
not.
to apply. No, we were just expecting not to apply.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
all of this kind of happened in a very quick format just to get this through to support the programs, since we did find that we were going to make that required deadline that we thought was going to be missed. So as soon as we found out that we were going to be able to make that guideline, then that's when we jumped in. So we were behind the 8 ball to begin with because we started the process late, trying to make sure that you were able to glean some application out of this program.
Okay.
Thank you. Supervisor Kirk.
Thank you.
Supervisor Kirk, as we were leaving, you were making a motion and I interrupted you. I apologize. Would you like to make your motion?
That's
now?
all good. Yeah. So the motion would be to fund the ACA food bank at 300,000 at the max that we can, to fund the school resource officers at the max that we can, 300,000, and then the remainder, 3 million, to give staff the ability to move forward on that should it become eligible. We're going to have, like I said, a meeting with our federal legislators, both local and then both state and assembly and senator tomorrow. And if we can have a meeting with the folks who administer this grant, and if it can be a go, then that would be the direction to move forward on that.
I think you didn't clarify what the item was. Are you talking about the flume or the reservoir?
The reservoir, not the flume, the reservoir.
Thank you.
To be an emergency backup for water for Tuolumne County.
Okay.
I'll second that.
I'd like to make an alternative motion that there's no recommendation with this. What is the recommendation from staff?
I guess the recommendation is that the board give us direction on which projects you want us to move forward with. We'll be back again at the next board meeting.
Well, okay, but the only projects that you brought us are the school resource officer and the food bank, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so my motion is to direct staff to apply for those 2 items.
Just those 2 items?
That's all we have.
No, but I'm just making sure, I'm clarifying your motion. Your motion is that your friendly amendment is to apply and direct staff to only approve the ACA and the school resource, not the reservoir.
I don't know what
No, I'm
that project is
I'm not
about.
questioning
There's
it. I'm just
no
I'm
information
writing
at
it
all.
down, make sure I'm understanding.
So as far as I'm concerned, there is no reservoir, there's no flume project. We haven't seen, I haven't seen a document. I haven't seen how much it would cost. I mean.
No, I got you. I'm not arguing
Made up
with you.
thing, so why are
I
we?
said,
including
so
that?
please take that off, but
So-
so your motion is for
It
school
would-
resource and ATCA.
It would be irresponsible of me to look to allocate taxpayer funds to a project that I have no idea what it's about. So my motion is to direct staff to apply for community development block grants for the Atcut Food Bank and the school resource officer, because those are the only two projects we've been presented.
Okay.
I hate to do it. We do have the policy. I wanted to make,
Can we just make
Yeah, I
our,
was gonna
what
say,
we
so we
done
don't-
with
we don't have a
this?
second
Just
yet.
make
Yeah, we have to have a
motions,
second.
guys.
we
don't
have
need to
all
talk
done this up
again
here.
and
It's
again.
not rules for thee and not for me.
So ridiculous.
Okay, is there a
So
second?
the point with this is,
You're out of order. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
And I want to make a substitute motion.
You have to get his permission to do that.
No, we're allowed up to 3 substitute motions.
But you're not substituting, you're changing his. So if you wish to
No,
not second and make
I'm-
your own.
I'm
well,
substituting. So, and this is what I want to say was, an apology, because I know we went down a rabbit hole, which was not talking as much about this. I want to say that, specific to the food bank and the funding that will not be coming in, my motion would be, that we would be applying for the entirety of that funding going to the food bank. And to clarify, we can do that with Lori. I know we did not talk
Well,
about the specifics
He already,
as much.
the gentleman who was here earlier already stated that the 3 million has to go to a infrastructure project and the 300,000 would go to.
Not the 3 million. Oh, the 300 max. I thought it was 2 300s or 1 600.
No.
Oh, thanks, Mike. Okay, no, that clarifies it. So then I will second Supervisor Campbell's motion.
So the motion on the floor is that 300,000 to the food bank, 300,000 to the school.
Yeah, which is what I believe to be staff
Sheriff, thank
recommendation,
you.
right?
Sheriff for the school resources. My mistake.
That's what you recommend, right?
Yes?
Okay, so staff recommendation. That's my motion.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Nay. All right, so it's 2 in favor, 3 against, 0 abstentions. Call for the original question. Any discussion, which is,
Can we clarify the motion?
absolutely, it's 300,000 for food bank, 300,000 for the school resource through the sheriff's department, and giving direction to staff to proceed to apply for, if possible, the 3 million for the reservoir project. Did I get that right?
What is the reservoir project?
Sarah Pines, for $6 million, they can have a 25-acre reservoir, which will give 90% of all of our constituents water for
Right,
anywhere from
right,
a week
right.
up to 3
But
weeks.
Have
So
we
that's-
ever
Oh.
had a presentation
No,
on it?
Brian, this is
Can I
an
say, Chair,
emergency
that it's a
declaration.
valid
This is all
point?
happening
Hold
very
on.
fast. I know it's hard
Okay.
to comprehend things quick, but
I
we
don't
have
think you
to
understand
move.
what CDBG is.
We
for.
have to.
Let's go ahead and
Hold
vote
on.
and do it.
So-
The vote's done. We've already
No,
voted. Goodbye.
No, we have not. So, sorry.
Yeah,
Let's
we
do
have
the
to
vote.
say,
I just want to make
We,
sure that
we are
we're-
literally acting like
Well,
kindergartners.
stop,
We have put
stop,
forth
stop,
motions.
stop.
Let's
Point of order,
move.
I want to clarify
Just-
what the consultant said is this would not be eligible. We're applying for CDBG, I believe, and this is, in fairness, what Supervisor Kirk was mentioning was a lobbying trip, meeting with legislators, which is different.
to be fair,
Right.
my understanding, and not to speak for the supervisor, but my understanding according to the notes is that we are going to request to apply for this amount. If we can do that, there's a meeting tomorrow that he wishes to capitalize on to see if it qualifies. If it doesn't qualify, then it doesn't go anywhere. If it qualifies for that project, then we would move forward with it. Yeah, the local emergency was what he said,
So I put forth a motion.
right? So I just want to clarify, we don't need to discuss any further, so I'm going to call for the vote.
Thank you.
So, all right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain. I didn't hear you, Ryan.
Bill said aye.
I said aye.
Oh, I didn't, I'm sorry,
You need to look.
old ears, sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
hear you. So that passes 5-0 to 0. With that
Okay.
being said, that concludes our meeting. We have one item for closed session. Are we anticipating, reporting out on that?
Wasn't there a presentation for the planning commission?
No, it was pulled because they didn't show.
Did we ever say that was pulled?
Yes.
Okay.
We're not anticipating any announcements out following closed session, so if the board chooses, it may adjourn following closed session.
All right. Madam, please read.
Item, excuse me, item number 11, closed session, public employee performance evaluation, Authority Government Code Section 54957B1, title County Administrative Officer.
Any public comment? Seeing none, we appreciate everybody coming to the meeting, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.